Marvel, I have Black Myth Wukong templates. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Players a mythical character system. I am Iron Man. As a handsome Western man said this on TV, Lin Feng was so shocked that he could put an egg in his mouth. Damn, I actually traveled to the world of Marvel. Lin Feng was not from this world. After his investigation, and now that the man named Tony Stark on the TV news said this, he could finally confirm that he traveled to the world of Marvel. In addition, after his investigation, he also found that there were no mythological stories in China in this world. Those familiar mythological figures could not find detailed information here, only a few words, as if there was a fault at a certain moment in the long history. However, the myths of Western countries did not have this situation. Of course, this is a later story. This is fucked. How did I travel to such a dangerous world? Lin Feng was uneasy, picked up the remote control, and turned off the TV news. At this time, he no longer had the heart to watch it. You know, this is the Marvel world, and things that destroy the Earth will happen at any time. Although in the movie, the disasters all happened in the United States. But now I have traveled through time. The United States and China are both on Earth. If the Earth is in danger, how can China be safe? Moreover, excluding this situation, there are all kinds of extraordinary people and evil organizations in the Marvel world. It is too dangerous for ordinary people to have no ability. Lin Feng became more and more worried as he thought about it. But there was no way. Now that he had traveled through time, there was no way to change it. Forget it. Think more open-mindedly, and take one step at a time. Now I should think about what kind of work I should do to support myself. Lin Feng thought about it. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Maybe, I can apply for a professorship at a university with my knowledge of mythology. Now there is a gap in Chinese mythology. I should be popular if I apply for a professorship in this field to give lectures. But just when Lin Feng had this idea, a metallic sound rang in his ears. Ding. System binding. Huh? System? Lin Feng was stunned, and then he immediately became excited. He also likes to read novels on weekdays, so he naturally knows what a system is. This is a super cheat in life. I never thought that I would be able to obtain a system one day. However, since time travel has happened, it's not surprising to obtain a system. Lin Feng thought happily. Then, he said, System, introduce your functions. Okay, Master, this system is called the role-playing system. As long as the Master plays a mythical character, he can get rewards. The more similar the role-playing is, the greater the reward. In addition, the shock value caused by playing the character can also be used to purchase role-playing role cards and other items. This system is quite interesting. Lin Feng was excited. Who didn't have a middle school second year? Who didn't worship mythical characters and learn their moves or words? Now this system actually plays these mythical characters. Isn't this too cool? Ding. Now we are distributing novice gift packs. Do you want to open them now? There are novice gift packs. Open them. Lin Feng heard this and couldn't wait to say. Ding. Congratulations to the Master for obtaining the first level role-playing authority of the Monkey King Sun Wukong. Ding. Congratulations to the Master for obtaining the first level role-playing authority of Tathagata Buddha. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In the original world, these two mythological characters were well-known figures. Even 5-year-old children knew them, so of course he knew them too. But what does this level of role-playing authority mean? Lin Feng asked again in confusion. Master, role-playing authority is a restriction on the strength of the character. The restriction levels are from level 1 to level 9, with level 1 being the lowest and level 9 being the highest. In other words, when the role-playing authority reaches level 9, the Master can exert the full strength of the role being played. For level 1, it is about 10% of the strength of the character. However, since the strength of each character is different, even if they are at the same role-playing level, their strength will be different. For example, Tathagata Buddha and Sun Wukong. Tathagata Buddha's own strength is stronger than Sun Wukong, so even if the two are at the same role-playing level, the former will be much stronger than the latter. I see. Lin Feng nodded to himself. This is easy to understand. Tathagata's own strength is stronger than Monkey King, and 10% of his strength is definitely stronger than Monkey King. At this time, the system voice sounded again. The master will continue to gain role-playing points during the role-playing. When the points reach a certain level, the role-playing authority can be upgraded. In addition, completing hero missions can also gain a large number of role-playing points. Hero missions? Lin Feng was startled, and then he understood. This is the Marvel world, and there will be many disasters and troubles. The so-called hero mission should be, to do what a hero should do. For example, what Iron Man, Spider-Man and others do. This kind of thing should not be difficult. I have obtained the role-playing cards of Sun Wukong and Tathagata. Although I only have the first level role-playing authority at present, I can only exert 10% of their strength. However, Sun Wukong is powerful and can transform into 72 forms and perform the art of immortality. Not to mention Tathagata, so even if I only have 10% of their strength, it should be very powerful. Lin Feng was excited. Moreover, he thought of one thing. If he played these mythological characters and appeared in the public eye, wouldn't it set off a wave of Chinese people exploring the ancient mythological characters? This kind of thing is also interesting to think about. Lin Feng smiled. However, at this moment, there was a rumbling sound in the sky, and the house began to tremble, and there was also a feeling of heartbreak. What's going on? Lin Feng quickly walked to the window, but he was immediately surprised. I saw a bright meteor in the sky not far away, falling towards the distance. However, it seems a bit wrong to say it is a meteor, because it is colorful, and meteors are not colorful. And this scene was also seen by many people in the city. People driving, walking, sitting in the office, etc. were all shocked. Fuck, what is that? Is it a meteor? How is it possible? Have you seen a colorful meteor? Fuck, it looks like it's going to fall into the mountain over there. How come it isn't rubbed off by the atmosphere? I don't know. There were waves of discussions. Some people took out their mobile phones to take videos. It can be predicted that at most 30 minutes later, there will be a hot search on the internet about this matter. And then, the colorful meteor fell towards the distant mountains and forests. With a bang, a lot of smoke and dust was raised. Due to the distance, the ground in the city only felt a slight tremor. If it fell closer, it would definitely cause a wave of ground tremors and cause disasters. Lin Feng looked at the mountain in the distance in shock. At this time, smoke and dust were still rising over there. This is the Marvel world. That meteor may not be normal. Lin Feng analyzed. Oh, right. Use the character card and fly over to see what's going on with that meteor. Thinking of this, Lin Feng was shocked. Chapter 2 Sun Wukong role-playing card. Lin Feng quickly took out the role-playing card of the Monkey King Sun Wukong. He planned to try the role-playing card of Tathagata later, and Tathagata's image was solemn, dignified, and grand, which was not suitable for watching the fun. On the roll card was a monkey with his head slightly lowered and his face unclear. He wore a purple gold 7-star crown on his head, lotus silk cloud shoes on his feet, and a chainmail golden armor on his body. Behind him was a fiery red cape fluttering in the wind. A ruai golden hoop lay across his shoulders, and his 2 hands dangled on it. He looked chic and handsome. Lin Feng took a deep breath. This image is handsome. Immediately, he did not hesitate and chose to use it. Ding. A system prompt sounded. The next second, the roll card directly turned into a white light and flew out, spinning around Lin Feng. Then the light became more and more intense, just like the one-click change of clothes in the game. Soon, the light disappeared, and Lin Feng had turned into the character image on the roll card. His face was covered with light golden hair, he wore a purple gold 7-star crown, lotus silk shoes, a chainmail golden armor, and a golden hoop in his hand. This was not the image of Sun Wukong played by Teacher Zhang, but the image of Sun Wukong played by Lin Feng himself. Handsome and unrestrained. Lin Feng opened his eyes, and there was a clear air flowing in his eyes. A powerful and mysterious power appeared in his body, which made him a little uncomfortable. However, he would get used to it after a while. Lin Feng exhaled. Is this the role-playing card? This feeling of mastering power is really cool. The system is amazing. Lin Feng smiled. However, he did not forget the business. Go and find out the situation of the 7-colored meteor. He was about to go over. But suddenly he remembered that he was playing Sun Wukong now, and he should learn the image of Sun Wukong to get the role-playing points. What does Sun Wukong say before he flies away when he goes to do things? Lin Feng thought about it, his eyes lit up, and he thought of it. Immediately, he shouted wildly, old Sun, I'm leaving. After saying this, he carried the golden hoop, jumped, and disappeared. Only a wisp of green smoke was left in the air. His shout also attracted the attention of other residents in the building. Who is it? This shout scared me. Old Sun, I'm leaving. What does this mean? Who is having a seizure? Damn. It's a very bold shout, and I got goosebumps. In this world, there is a gap in the mythological stories of China, so everyone doesn't know the mythological characters, and naturally they don't know what this means. If it were in the original world, a 5-year-old child would know whose line this was. Lin Feng appeared above the building at this time. He is now sharp-eyed and sharp-eared, and he saw and heard the reactions of the crowd, and he felt helpless for no reason. In this world, there is a gap in the mythological legends of China. In this case, let this world and the heroes of the West witness what the mythological characters of China are. Lin Feng gathered his thoughts and quickly flew towards the forest, where the colorful meteor fell. The place where the meteor fell. A large pit with a diameter of 10 meters appeared on the ground. In the pit, weeds, trees, and even tree roots were all vaporized, leaving no residue. In the middle of the pit was a hammer. The hammerhead of the hammer was silver, with patterns engraved on both ends, and a strap at the end of the hammer handle. In short, it looked very extraordinary. However, how could it be ordinary to form a colorful light falling from the sky and causing such a big momentum? At this time, a man ran over breathlessly and stood in front of the pit. Looking at the hammer in the pit, his face was sweating, but he showed an excited smile. Mjolnir, it's you, my baby. The man was Thor, the god of thunder, and the hammer in the pit was Mjolnir. Nickname, Thor's hammer, Meow Meow Hammer. Thor made a mistake because of his impulse, and his father Odin imprisoned his power, took away Thor's hammer, and exiled him to the earth. Just now, he saw the 7-colored meteor, and felt a familiar breath. So he ran over desperately. Now seeing the appearance of the colorful meteor, it is indeed his hammer. Thor was excited and jumped into the pit without hesitation. Then he walked up and wanted to take his hammer back. But at this moment, a golden light fell from the sky, and with a bang, it was inserted into the ground, raising dust like fog. Thor was choked and coughed and patted the dust, trying to disperse it. After the dust dispersed, Thor saw the thing that caused this scene. It was a thin metal rod with golden hoops at both ends and a long black iron rod in the middle. Thor looked puzzled. What is this? Did it come with Mjolnir? Just as Thor was puzzled, a figure flashed on the iron rod out of thin air. This person's face was covered with light golden hair, wearing a purple gold 7-star crown, lotus silk cloud shoes, and a chainmail gold armor. With his left foot on the iron rod, he squatted down slightly, presenting a sitting posture, and his right foot was crossed, looking extremely unrestrained. However, Thor was not an ordinary person, so he did not show much surprise at this fantasy scene, but just looked at the other party vigilantly. Lin Feng also looked at Thor. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was surprised in his heart. Thor, how could he appear in China, and that meow hammer? Lin Feng turned his head to look at Thor's hammer. In his impression, in the movie, Thor's hammer should have fallen in Mexico, but how could it fall into China now? Is it because of my crossing that caused the butterfly effect? Lin Feng could only think of this one reason. However, since Thor's hammer appeared, it was also because of this Marvel plot that the curtain was really opened. Lin Feng's thoughts were a little scattered. At this time, a voice sounded in his ears. Hey, who are you? Thor looked at the hairy-faced monster in front of him with a vigilant look. He didn't know whether the other party was an enemy or a friend. As the son of Odin, he had fought many battles and naturally had many enemies. So it was very likely that this person was here to seek revenge. Hearing this, Lin Feng turned his head and looked at Thor again, imitating the way of Sun Wukong, and asked back, where did you come from, monster, and dare to make trouble here? You are the monster. Hearing this, Thor realized that the other party was not here to seek revenge, because he didn't even know him. However, he was a little angry. He was the lord of the 9 realms, the son of Odin, the father of the gods, and he was actually called a monster, a low-level creature that could only twist and crawl on the ground. He immediately corrected him righteously. "I'm a god." Lin Feng nodded and then said, "Strange. No wonder I can't feel the demonic energy on you. Then what kind of god are you? Tell me your name." "What god?" Thor became even more angry, patted his chest, and said loudly, "I'm the son of Odin, the lord of the 9 realms and the father of the gods, Thor." Although it was the first time he heard the word hairy god, he could understand that it must be used to describe those gods who were not in the mainstream. But how could he be a god who was not in the mainstream? This was a great insult to himself. "Odin? I don't know him." Lin Feng pretended not to know him and waved his hands like Sun Wukong. Seeing Lin Feng's reaction, Thor suddenly lost his temper like a deflated balloon. Yes, if the other party didn't know his father, then no matter how much he explained, it would be useless. This is just like an ant explaining how powerful an elephant is. It is completely useless. Thor glared at Lin Feng fiercely and was too lazy to talk to him anymore. He walked straight towards Thor's hammer, wanting to pick it up. But at this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. "God, what are you going to do?" Chapter 3. Lin Feng snatched Thor's hammer. Thor pointed at Mjolnir and said, "That hammer is mine. I want to take it away." Hearing this, Lin Feng sneered and said, "You hairy god, do you think I didn't see it? That thing just fell from the sky. Since it fell from the sky, it is an ownerless thing. How can you say it is yours?" Lin Feng knew that Mjolnir was Thor's weapon, but he was now playing the role of Sun Wukong, so he naturally had to stand from Sun Wukong's perspective. And Sun Wukong didn't know these things. "What ownerless thing? If I pick it up and show you, it can prove that it is my hammer." Thor didn't want to talk nonsense with this hairy-faced guy anymore. He walked towards Mjolnir, but his mind couldn't help but think of the scene when he was exiled, when his father Odin scolded him angrily, imprisoned his divine power, and took back Mjolnir. However, Mjolnir will also come to Earth. It must be arranged by my father. He may just want to punish me. When I get Mjolnir back, I can regain my divine power and return to Asgard. Thor thought excitedly. He walked to Mjolnir, smiled, and stretched out his hand to hold the handle of the hammer. But when he touched it, his face changed slightly. This feeling was completely different from before. In the past, holding Mjolnir would give him a feeling of spiritual connection, but now he felt like he was holding a piece of stone, a dead object. Thor hurriedly tried to pick up the hammer, but found that he couldn't pick it up at all. Thor was puzzled. He immediately tried again, but it still didn't work. This hammer seemed to grow together with the ground. How could this happen? Thor didn't understand. At this time, Lin Feng's voice came. "Hey, can you do it? Didn't you say that this hammer is yours? Why can't you even pick it up?" Thor heard this and ignored it. He didn't think much about it and held the handle of the hammer with his left hand. He took a deep breath and tried to lift Mjolnir with both hands. Seeing this, Lin Feng rolled down from the golden hoopstick and then squatted on the ground with the golden hoopstick. Lin Feng had seen the movie and knew that Odin had imprisoned Thor's power and cast a spell on the hammer, so Thor couldn't lift it at this time. However, Thor was exiled before the hammer was cursed by Odin, so he didn't know about it at all. Sure enough, Thor clenched his teeth, his face turned red, veins on his forehead bulged, and blood vessels in his arms were surging. But it was still useless. Mjolnir didn't move at all. Suddenly, Thor couldn't hold it anymore and his hand slipped, and he himself sat down on the ground under inertia. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, wonderful, wonderful, you are so funny. Not to mention, whether this hammer is yours, you can't even lift such a small hammer, and you claim to be a god. Which god is as weak as you? Ha ha ha." Thor was furious when he heard this. He quickly stood up and said to Lin Feng, as if he was angry, but also as if he was trying to save face, "You are so powerful, come on. I don't think you can lift it either." Thor knew Mjolnir, even Loki couldn't lift it. This person is not from Asgard, so he certainly can't lift it. However, Thor is not a fool, and he also understood a little bit at this time. Mjolnir might have been manipulated by his father Odin, so he can't lift it now. Okay. Since you said so, I will show you my skills. After saying that, Sun Wukong stood up and stuck the golden hoop on the ground. Then he walked towards Mjolnir. Thor watched Lin Feng walk to Mjolnir, hold the hammer handle with his right hand, and then exert his strength. But Mjolnir did not move at all. Hey, it's quite heavy. Lin Feng was surprised. When Thor heard this, he raised his mouth and said half mockingly and half boastingly, "Do you know how powerful it is? It is one of the important weapons of our Asgard. The natives of low-level planets, like you, can't lift it at all." Thor currently thought that the hairy-faced man in front of him was an earthling. Although this was not wrong. But when Lin Feng heard this, he said, "Why are you in a hurry? I haven't exerted my strength yet." After that, he exerted his strength, and golden light emerged from his body. The fiery red cloak behind him fluttered without wind. Thor looked at this scene with disdain. He didn't believe that Lin Feng could lift it. But the next second, he was stunned. Lin Feng shouted, "Get up." Mjolnir was lifted up by him with one hand. Thor's eyes almost popped out, and a huge wave of waves was set off in his heart. How is this possible? How can this man pick up Mjolnir? Is he his father's illegitimate son on Earth? Thor would rather suspect that Lin Feng was Odin's illegitimate son than believe that he picked up the hammer with his strong strength, because this was beyond his cognition. And just when he was shocked, something happened that shocked him even more. Lin Feng weighed Mjolnir and said with disdain, "Just this weight. It's just so. But this hammer is too ugly. If you take it out to fight monsters, you will be laughed at by monsters. Not good." Lin Feng shook his head and threw the hammer hard towards the sky in front of him. Swoosh. The hammer disappeared quickly. Thor was dumbfounded. He never expected that the person in front of him would throw Mjolnir away. This is one of Asgard's important weapons. Countless creatures in the 9 realms want it, but can't get it. Now this person has abandoned it like a worn-out shoe and thrown it out like garbage. Thor was furious and pointed at Lin Feng and cursed, You are crazy. Do you know what that is? It's just an ugly broken hammer." Lin Feng pretended not to know. "It's not a suitable weapon. What's the use of it?" Thor pointed at Lin Feng angrily. His fingers were trembling, his chest was aching with anger, and he couldn't speak for a while. Suddenly, he saw Lin Feng's golden hoop, and then he said to Lin Feng angrily, "Okay, you throw my hammer, I will throw your stick." After saying that, he was afraid that Lin Feng would stop him, so he walked quickly to the golden hoop, stretched out his hand to hold the golden hoop, and wanted to pick it up. But he found that this iron rod seemed to grow with the ground, and he couldn't pick it up at all. What's going on? Thor was shocked. He never thought that this iron rod, which looked not as thick as his wrist, would be so heavy. Thor didn't give up, gritted his teeth, and used both hands to try to pick up the iron rod. But it still didn't move. Helplessly, he had to let go of his hand unwillingly. Lin Feng had been watching this scene. He didn't try to stop Thor. Seeing Thor give up, he said, "Go ahead, why don't you take it?" Hearing this, Thor turned and looked at Lin Feng. Not wanting Lin Feng to know that he couldn't take it, he made an excuse and said, "I just came to Earth and haven't eaten yet. I'm hungry, so I don't have the strength to take it." "Haha, you're quite good at making excuses. Whatever, I'll let you try again after you've eaten," Lin Feng said, imitating Sun Wukong's words. Humph. Thor didn't bother with Lin Feng anymore and quickly ran towards the direction where the hammer was thrown. Chapter 4 Loki sends out the destroyer to kill Thor. Lin Feng looked at Thor's figure running away and did not stop him. The purpose of his trip was to see what the colorful meteor was. Now that he knew it, there was no need to do anything more. However, since Thor's hammer has come to Earth, it means that Earth will encounter various dangers in the future. Then we can do heroic tasks. Lin Feng pondered secretly, and it can also let the Chinese know their own local mythological figures and understand their power, so they don't have to be afraid of the Nordic gods. Lin Feng thought of this and became slightly excited. Immediately, he did not stay any longer. He took the golden hoop, turned around in a circle, and disappeared. Lin Feng's home. A white light flashed, and Lin Feng appeared out of thin air. Immediately, he thought about it and cancelled the role playing. A brilliant light emerged from his body, and the light dissipated, and he returned to his normal appearance. The power of Sun Wukong in his body also disappeared. However, as long as he wanted, he could regain the power of Sun Wukong anytime and anywhere. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Now it was his turn to cancel the role playing. Without that mysterious power, he was a little uncomfortable. Ding. The role playing is being settled. Settlement completed. Congratulations, Master. You have earned a total of 158 points for this role playing. 1000 points will get you the second level role playing privilege, and you will have 20% of Sun Wukong's strength. Name, Lin Feng. Role card, Sun Wukong. Tathagata Buddha. Playing points, Sun Wukong 158 points. Note, playing points cannot be used universally. The playing points of a character can only be used for that character. Shock value. 58 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase goods in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. A virtual panel appeared in front of him. Lin Feng nodded to himself. Reaching 1000 points will get you the second level role playing privilege, which is quite simple. I just chatted with Thor and earned more than 100 points. Lin Feng was looking forward to higher role playing privileges, because in this way, things like the somersault cloud and the law of heaven and earth can be used. As for the 58 shock points, Lin Feng also figured out what was going on. Not long ago, when I went to check the colorful meteor, I shouted I'm leaving, and many people heard it. These 58 shock points should be contributed by them. The scene changed. In the woods, Thor was running wildly. Although his divine power was imprisoned, his physique was still stronger than that of ordinary people, so he could run for such a long time. Thor cursed Lin Feng fiercely in his heart. But then, he began to think about Lin Feng's identity. Mjolnir is not something that ordinary people can lift, not to mention that there is a restriction imposed by my father. Even I can't lift it. How can that person lift it? Who is he? However, what Thor can be sure of now is that the other party should not be his father's illegitimate son. If he is a illegitimate son, he would not have lost the hammer, and he does not have the breath of Asgard. Thor was puzzled. Could he really be an indigenous person on Earth? But is there really such a powerful guy on this low-level planet? Why hasn't he been discovered before? Even Heimdall hasn't seen him? Thor couldn't figure it out. Heimdall was the guardian of Asgard guarding the Rainbow Bridge. His eyes could see through the 9 realms, and nothing in the 9 realms could escape his eyes. But he had never heard him mention such a person. This also meant that he had never seen this person. Thor frowned. The identity of the hairy face gradually became a mystery in his mind. After finding the hammer, untying the imprisonment, and recovering the divine power, I must find that hairy face again and ask him clearly, Thor said secretly. He continued to chase in the direction where the hammer flew. At the same time, the location where the hammer fell, an armed helicopter roared over, blowing dust on the ground below and bending the trees. Then, a rope was thrown down from the helicopter, and several people came down. One of them was wearing a black suit, obviously a leader. As soon as Chen Haitian landed, he looked at the middle of the pit. There was nothing there, only a rectangular outline. And next to it there was a round, stick-like outline. Chen Haitian frowned, puzzled. The people next to him were also surprised. What's going on? Why is there nothing? Yes, the meteorite created such a large pit, there must be something left. Did someone take it away in advance? But we should be fast enough, right? Chen Haitian was also wondering about this question, but when he heard this, he was shocked and remembered something. He immediately looked at his subordinates and said, go, investigate who Leo Sun is, and whether it is a nickname for a superpower. Leo Sun? Hearing this, several people were stunned. They immediately looked like they had suddenly realized something. On the way here, they saw a lot of videos about 7-colored meteors, and in many of them, they heard the words I, Leo Sun, am leaving. This voice gave people a wild and arrogant feeling, which was obviously unusual, and it happened to appear when the 7-colored meteors crossed the sky. This is obviously not a coincidence, there must be some connection between the two. In addition, there is nothing in the crater now, so it is possible that it was taken away by this old sun in advance. If not, it may be related to him. Thinking of this, several subordinates immediately understood what the leader meant and immediately expressed their understanding. At the same time, Asgard. After Odin exiled Thor, he fell into a deep sleep. Asgard was managed by Loki for a while. But in fact, all this was Loki's trick. He first bewitched Thor to attack the frost giants, and then caused Thor to be punished by Odin, imprisoned his divine power, took back Mjolnir, and expelled from Asgard. His purpose in doing this was to get rid of Thor and become the new heir of Asgard. Now his trick has succeeded. He sat on the throne and got the scepter that symbolizes power. But if you want to sit in this position safely, my dear brother, you must die. Loki raised the corner of his mouth. Thor is only exiled now, not dead. Only if he dies can Loki sit in this position safely. Let me see where you are now. Loki tapped the ground with his scepter. With a bang, the scepter immediately projected a picture. In the picture, Thor was running in the woods, dirty and in a very miserable state. How could he still be a prince of Asgard? So he is in the atrium, or on an inferior planet. It seems that he has encountered some trouble. Loki smiled playfully. Immediately, he tapped the ground with his scepter again. This time, there was a loud buzzing sound. Loki issued an order as the king of Asgard. Destroyer, go and kill him. Chapter 5 Thor was deceived. Wow, the internet is full of news about this incident now. Lin Feng was shocked while looking at his phone. The internet was full of news about the 7-colored meteor passing through the sky, and in some live videos, he also shouted old son, I'm leaving. And many people were discussing this sentence. Damn, this sentence happened to appear when the meteor passed by. Could it be related to the meteor? Of course, otherwise it wouldn't be such a coincidence. I was at the scene. The sound spread over a large area. This situation is definitely not something that ordinary people can do, so I guess that the 7-colored meteor should be an alien attack or something else. And this Mr. Sun must be a Chinese hero who protects us. He took action to eliminate the aliens. That's possible. Come on, what can a single sound prove? Don't believe in rumors or spread them. That's right, rumors stop at the wise. Lin Feng looked at the comments on the internet and smiled slightly. Discuss it. You can discuss it. And when the image of Sun Wukong is truly presented in front of you, you will know. By that time, there will definitely be a lot of shock value. After all, this is something beyond cognition. At the same time, Thor came to another city. Originally, he ran in the direction where the hammer was thrown, but after dodging several cars on the road and detouring a few times when encountering a residential area blocking the road, he lost his direction and couldn't tell which direction the hammer flew. Damn it, which way did it fly? Thor was anxiously turning around like an ant on a hot pot, but he still couldn't tell the direction. Forget it, ask a human. Thor didn't want to ask a human, but there was no way at the moment. He saw a takeaway boy, hurried forward, grabbed the other party and asked, "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying across the sky? I didn't notice it. Go ask someone else." The takeaway boy didn't even hear the words clearly and hurriedly waved his hand and left in a hurry. Thor looked at the other party's back as he left, and there was nothing he could do, so he had to ask someone else again. "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying across the sky?" This time, he asked a girl. But the girl looked at Thor and frowned, thinking, what's wrong with this foreigner? What kind of pickup routine is this? Western style? Immediately, she said coldly, "I didn't see it." Then she left, not even bothering to say a word. Thor frowned. Aren't the humans on this earth too indifferent? Even if we Asgardians didn't see it, we wouldn't talk like this, right? But finding the hammer is more important. Thor didn't care too much, and looked around again. Finally, he found a well-dressed young man standing on the side of the road. This person is well-dressed, he should be more polite. Immediately, he quickly stepped forward and asked, "Excuse me, did you see a hammer flying through the sky?" Hammer? Flying through the sky? The young man blinked and thought, is this foreigner a psychopath? However, looking at his clear and somewhat anxious eyes, he doesn't look like a psychopath. The young man thought about it. Then, he gave up thinking. Forget it, who cares? Since this foreigner is here to look for something, let's trick him in first. He's a foreigner anyway, let's make money from him. Thinking of this, the young man immediately put on a smile. Hammer? Yes. Come with me. After that, the young man in a suit pulled Thor into the store and then shouted, "VIP, please come to a private room." Thor didn't think much when he heard the other party say that he had seen a hammer and hurriedly followed the other party in. However, he didn't know that the plaque hanging outside this storied red romantic foot bathing city. It must be said that Thor suffered from his lack of education. At the same time, Asgard, Thor's 4 friends were arguing. Our best friend was exiled. Loki usurped the throne and attempted to start a war with the frost giants. And you can still eat 4 wild boars, 6 pheasants, half a cow, and 2 barrels of beer. Shame on you. Don't you care about Thor's safety in the upcoming war in Asgard? After saying that, he raised his hand angrily and knocked over one of the people's plates. With a bang, the food scattered all over the floor. The person whose plate was knocked over immediately stood up angrily and shouted, "Don't take my good appetite as indifference." You. Sis saw that the two were about to fight and hurriedly shouted, "Enough." Then, she and another person pulled the 2 people who were facing each other apart. Sif glared at the 2 people and then said, "We should go find Thor instead of just worrying and arguing here." As soon as these words came out, the 2 people who were arguing were startled. Loki is the king now. Thor has been exiled and is no longer the prince of Asgard. What we are doing is treason. But we can't care so much now. The king has fallen into a deep sleep. If Loki is allowed to start a war, there will be large-scale casualties in Asgard and Jotunheim. We must prevent this from happening, Sif said firmly. The 2 people who were arguing fell into silence. The other person said hush and lowered his voice. "Keep your voice down. Don't let Heimdall know. Heimdall has eyes that can see all 9 realms." However, he was able to remind Sif, which means that he also agreed to find Thor back. The 2 people who were arguing pondered for a while and then made up their minds and decided to find Thor back. Thor was brought into the box. The waiter who led the way smiled and said, "Please sit down and wait for a while." Thor was puzzled. Why did he bring himself into the room? But then he thought that maybe the person who knew about it was busy and he needed to wait for him for a while. So he didn't think much about it and sat down. After a while, a male technician came in with a wooden barrel. "Hello, technician number 666 is here to serve you." Thor was puzzled and didn't understand what he meant. But he thought, could he be an insider? Just as Thor was guessing, technician number 666 had already helped Thor take off his shoes and socks. But he immediately smelled a smell. "Boss, your feet smell a bit strong." After saying that, he put Thor's feet into the wooden barrel. Suddenly, a feeling of soaking appeared on Thor. Thor's face showed a comfortable look. He had already traveled a long way and was already tired, and his feet were sore. Now, after soaking, he felt his feet melted instantly, and there was a sense of comfort from his feet along the spine to the top of his head. But he remembered something, straightened his back, and asked technician number 666, "Do you know where the hammer is?" "Hammer?" The technician was stunned. Immediately, he reacted and said, "Oh, yes. Boss, don't worry, wait a moment." Hearing "wait a moment," Thor was a little anxious, but there was nothing he could do but wait. After soaking for a while, the technician took Thor's foot out, wiped off the water stains, and then applied essential oil to his hands, and began to press Thor's right foot. Thor immediately felt a kind of comfort that he had never experienced since birth, which spread from the soles of his feet to his whole body. "This feeling is comfortable," Thor said in his heart, and his body completely relaxed at this moment, even closing his eyes. Under the technique of technician number 666, he gradually became completely intoxicated and happy. At the same time, outside the red romantic foot bathing city, 4 foreigners dressed in strange clothes came, looking a bit like the Western Middle Ages. They were the 4 Sifs. Chapter 6. Wash your feet. Everyone, come in and wash your feet. The 4 people's attire aroused the curiosity of passers-by. What's the situation with those 4 foreigners? They should be cosplaying. Mom, what is that? Baby, that's not a normal person. Sif and the other 4 were vigilantly watching their surroundings. Earth belongs to the Atrium and is a low-level planet, so they have never been to this planet and don't know if there is any danger on this planet. However, it's right to be vigilant. Sif and the other 4 walked to the front of the red romantic foot bathing city and stopped. Sif said, Heimdall said Thor is in here. The other 3 did not say anything. But they also looked at the building in front of them. For some reason, Heimdall turned a blind eye and let them use the rainbow bridge to come to Earth, and also told them Thor's location by the way. For the time being, let's just say that he also wants to find Thor and bring him back. Sif and the other 4 thought. Immediately, Sif gathered her thoughts, looked at the young man standing at the door, and asked bluntly, where is Thor? This young man was the waiter who had tricked Thor into going in for a foot bath. Originally, he had also looked at the way Sif and the other 4 would rest, but he had not expected them to come over, and was a little surprised. But when he heard the other party's question, the waiter immediately reacted. Thor? Could it be that stupid foreigner from before? Are they friends of that stupid foreigner? The waiter looked Sif up and down, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case. Then, he didn't think much about it. Since they are here to find that stupid foreigner, let's go in and wash my feet together. Thinking of this, the waiter immediately put on a smile and said, it's inside, please follow me. Sif and the other 4 didn't think much about it and followed the waiter in. The waiter shouted happily to the front desk, 4 more VIPs are here. Sif and the other 4 were taken to the box where Thor was. Thor was seen lying on his stomach, naked from the waist up, and his upper body was slippery, as if it was smeared with oil. There was also a man with a wooden hammer in his hand, who was constantly hitting Thor's back, making a click sound. Thor made a comfortable sound from time to time, and he looked so happy that the 4 people felt that they might have opened the door in the wrong way. Although they didn't know what Thor was doing, they could see that he should be quite comfortable. They were relieved that he didn't encounter any danger. However, the situation in Asgard was critical, and Sif stepped forward and said, Thor. Hearing this, Thor turned around and saw Sif and the other 4. His eyes lit up, and he said in surprise, why are you here? Then, he thought of something, and waved his hand and said, come on, all of you try it. The humans here know a kind of magic that makes people relax. Thor wanted to share the good things with his 4 friends, so that they could relax too. But Sif was not in the mood at all. She frowned and said, something happened in Asgard. Thor's pupils shrank when he heard this. Although he was exiled, he still missed Asgard and always wanted to take back the hammer and return to Asgard. Thor lost his enjoyment instantly and asked seriously, what happened? Loki wants to start a war against the frost giants. How could this happen? Thor was surprised. Where is my father? After the king expelled you, he fell into a deep sleep. Now Loki is the king of Asgard. Another friend said. As soon as these words came out, Thor was like being hit on the head, and his head was buzzing. My father fell into a deep sleep? Why did this happen? Now Loki is the king of Asgard, and he wants to start a war? Thor was uneasy. After being demoted to Earth by Odin, he also thought clearly. He took his friends to attack the frost giants at that time, which might have been a trick of Loki. Now it seems that it has been confirmed. Loki had been eyeing the throne of Asgard from the beginning. But he was the eldest son, and the throne would not be his, so he designed all this. No. We have to stop him. But how to stop him? Thor became anxious and his mind was in a mess. But suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. Oh, Mjolnir. Thor only remembered his hammer at this time. Only by getting the hammer back can he return to Asgard and stop Loki. He hurriedly looked at the technician number 666 next to him and asked anxiously, where is my hammer? What? Technician number 666 just heard their whole conversation next to him. But he didn't understand a word. What Asgard? What Loki? Isn't that something from Norse mythology? But the next second, he reacted. Could it be that these people are actors, rehearsing their lines? These foreigners are really good at rehearsing their lines. But he didn't plan to cooperate, and he didn't know what lines to take. Isn't the hammer here? The technician raised the small wooden hammer in his hand. Seeing this scene, Thor realized that he had been deceived, so he said angrily, this is not the hammer I'm looking for. After that, he jumped off the bed without even wearing shoes, and said to Sif and the other 4, let's go and find Mjolnir. Sif and the other 4 were shocked. Mjolnir is also on Earth? Yes. Thor said, my father exiled me to Earth and threw Mjolnir here. Sif and the other 4 immediately understood Odin's intention. Maybe he didn't want to give up Thor, but wanted to punish Thor and let him know his mistakes. Thor ran out with the 4 people. Technician number 666 was stunned when he saw this scene, and then he immediately reacted, ran out, and shouted to Thor and the other 5 who had already run to the lobby, "Stop them quickly, they want to wash the king's feet." As soon as this was said, the waiter and security guard downstairs were immediately shocked. Damn, washing the king's feet in broad daylight. They quickly stepped forward and stopped Thor and the other 5. Thor was worried about the situation in Asgard and immediately shouted angrily, "What are you doing? Get out of the way. I'm the Prince of Asgard, the eldest son of Odin. How dare you stop me? What a mess." The lobby manager said angrily, "Want to wash the king's feet? Come on, beat them up, and then call the police to deal with it." "Yes," the subordinates responded. But at this moment, suddenly, there was a loud bang, and an explosive airwave hit, instantly blowing the lobby manager and his men away. Thor and his 5 men were also hit, flying backwards and hitting the wall on the side. The scene was immediately in a mess. The door was destroyed, and there were broken glass and gravel everywhere. The crystal chandelier also fell, and hit the ground, and the dust rolled. Thor lost his divine power, and was only a little stronger than ordinary people at this time. He was hit and struggled to get up, with roaring sounds in his ears. He shook his head and tried to wake himself up. However, he saw more than a dozen giants made of black steel standing outside. "Destroyer, destroyer." Thor's pupils shrank. Chapter 7. The Destroyer attacks Thor. 1 minute ago. Oh my god, look at the sky. What is that? Is it another meteor? What's going on today? Why are there so many meteors? What meteor? How can there be so many meteors? Maybe it's aliens. Are aliens going to invade the Earth? From the current situation, it is very likely. Then what should we do? Lin Feng also stood in front of the window, listening to the worried voices, looking at the sky in the distance. There were a total of 18 bright meteors. That should be the destroyer sent by Loki to kill Thor, right? Lin Feng said. In the movie, Loki sent a total of 1 destroyer to kill Thor. But because he traveled through time, it has triggered a butterfly effect. Even the place where Thor and Mjolnir fell has changed and came to China. So it is not surprising that the number of destroyers sent by Loki has increased. It's time for me to take action, Lin Feng said excitedly. He was thinking about completing the heroic mission. Destroyer, destroyer. Thor's pupils were shocked, and he couldn't believe how the steel giant in front of him appeared here. Sif and the other 3 also struggled to get up from the ground. They were from Asgard, and their divine powers were not imprisoned, so their condition was much better than Thor. As for the lobby manager and the others, they all fainted. Destroyers. Sif and the other 4 saw the situation outside clearly, and they were immediately shocked. How could so many destroyers come to Earth? I don't know. Loki. Suddenly, Sif thought of something, and her face was shocked. Only the king can activate the destroyer. It must be Loki who activated the destroyer with the king's scepter. Sif looked at Thor and said anxiously, "Thor, this is sent by Loki. He wants to kill you. Because your existence will affect his throne. Only by killing you can he sit safely." Thor was shocked and reacted instantly. Although he didn't want to admit it, according to the current situation, Sif was right. Damn, Loki is so crazy. What should we do now? Sif was also anxious. They couldn't deal with so many destroyers at all. But there was no other way now. Even if they couldn't deal with it, they had to deal with it. With this in mind, she said to Thor again, "Thor, run away quickly. The 4 of us will cover your back." As soon as these words came out, the other 3 immediately understood what Sif meant. But none of the 3 of them refuted and acquiesced to this decision. Because Loki was already crazy, only Thor could stop him now. But Thor immediately rejected it and said, "No, you are no match for the destroyer. Not to mention there are so many destroyers. The destroyer is Asgard's war weapon, extremely powerful, and only obeys the king." Thor knew the strength of Sif and the other 4, and they could not fight against the destroyer at all, and didn't want the 4 to die. "There is no other way," Sif said with a firm look. "For Asgard, you must survive and find Mjolnir." After that, she took the lead in summoning weapons and rushed up. The other 3 also summoned weapons and rushed over with shouts. Come back. Come back quickly. Thor shouted anxiously. But Sif and the other 4 didn't listen to him at all. They attacked one of the destroyers head on and fought with each other. The humans around had already hidden after the explosion. At the same time, Director Chen Haitian of the Chinese National Security Department was on his way with the army. Chen Haitian was sitting in the car, looking at the tablet in his hand, which was playing a video. In the video, more than a dozen colorful rainbows fell from the sky and then turned into more than a dozen steel giants after falling to the ground. Then, one of them fired a light attack at a store called Red Romantic Foot Bathing City. With a bang, the storefront was blown open and smoke and dust rolled. There were passers-by screaming and running around. The scene was panicked and messy for a while. And these 18 steel giants, each of them looks exactly the same, at least 3 or 4 meters tall, and they look spiritual, and even have a feeling of being between living beings and machines. In short, they are not like the technology on Earth. Even Tony Stark of the United States can't create such a steel giant. But why do they attack the foot bathing city? This foot massage parlor is not formal. That's impossible. Even if it's not formal, there's no need for aliens to use alien technology to deal with it. Chen Haitian frowned, confused. However, this is not the point. Now we are almost at the place where the Iron Giant appears. We can't leave it alone, otherwise the citizens will be in danger. Bang, 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 ah. After a fight, Sif and the other 4 were beaten out. Damn it. Thor was anxious when he saw this scene. He didn't choose to escape. In this situation, he couldn't leave his friends and run away by himself. Asgard. Loki and the Destroyer shared the vision. Loki saw this scene and sneered, "You are overestimating your own abilities." Loki only activated 1 destroyer to fight with them, and didn't activate all 18. If all of them were activated, they would be killed instantly. Destroyer, kill the 4 of them. Loki ordered again. Sif and the other 4 wanted to help Thor, so they couldn't stay. The destroyer, who was fighting with Sif and the other 4, received the order and walked towards Sif first. But at this moment, a voice with a loudspeaker sounded, "The steel giant in front. We are Chinese soldiers. You have been surrounded. Surrender quickly, otherwise we will take measures." Chen Haitian arrived with the army, shouting with a loudspeaker in his hand. The citizens hiding in the building heard the shouting and saw the military coming, and they were surprised. There is salvation. The destroyer stopped, turned his head, and looked at Chen Haitian. Then a fiery red light appeared on its chest, and with a roar, a fiery red light burst out from its face, hitting the ground and slashing towards Chen Haitian and the others. Feeling the hot air wave on his face, Chen Haitian's face changed drastically. Without thinking much, he quickly pushed the assistant next to him, and then fell to the ground on the other side. With a boom, the light that came across the ground hit the car and directly blew it up. The flaming car parts flew everywhere, and many soldiers were affected by the shock wave of the explosion, and some were hit by the burning gasoline and car parts. There were screams and flames for a while. Just like that, they suffered a lot of casualties. Damn it. Chen Haitian saw this scene and gritted his teeth. He actually launched an attack without saying a word. Is this an invasion? Exclamation mark. He immediately got up from the ground and shouted with a walkie-talkie, "Attack, kill them, kill them." As soon as he finished speaking, soldiers appeared from all directions, holding assault rifles and shooting at the 18 steel giants. Some soldiers even carried rocket launchers to attack them. Dang dang dang. But the bullets hit the destroyers, and there was no effect at all except for the sound of golden swords, and there was not even a scratch left. The rockets fired by the rocket launcher bombarded the destroyers, except for making them retreat half a step and exploding a ball of fire and smoke. There was no other effect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Lin Feng plays a role of Sun Wukong and arrives. But Sif and the others were stunned. They didn't expect that there would be such a long-range attack method on this low-level planet. However, it was useless and could not cause any harm to the destroyer. This is Asgard's war weapon, extremely powerful. The citizens who were hiding were also dumbfounded when they saw this situation. They didn't expect that these steel giants would not be hurt at all under such an attack by the military. Damn, what metal are these iron lumps made of? Chen Haitian said anxiously. Do we need to call in heavy firepower weapons? But will there be enough time to do the evacuation work? Calling in heavy firepower weapons means that a large-scale evacuation of citizens will be carried out. But now there is not enough time and manpower. Loki and the destroyer share the same vision. Seeing the current situation, he was silent and snorted coldly, humble earth ants dare to use force against gods? Destroyer, kill them all for me. Bang. The scepter hit the ground heavily, making a heavy buzzing sound. Loki was enraged by the use of force by the Earthlings, so he activated all 18 destroyers, intending to kill all the Earthlings present. Buzz fiery red light appeared in the eyes of all the destroyers. Then, they collectively moved, bearing the attacks of bullets and rockets, heading in all directions. Then, fiery red light began to appear on their chests, and light also began to emerge on their faces. Seeing this scene, Chen Haitian's pupils shrank, and he remembered the scene before he was attacked by the destroyers. He quickly picked up the walkie-talkie and shouted, "Stop the attack and find a place to hide. They are going to launch a beam attack." What? Exclamation mark. As soon as these words came out, all the soldiers were shocked. Everyone saw the scene of the beam blowing up the car just now. This power is not weak. For a moment, all the soldiers panicked and began to shout retreat and look for a place to hide. This scene is very similar to the weak creatures fleeing in the face of a natural disaster. But at this moment, a wild and unruly voice sounded in the sky. "Hey, where did you come from, monster? You dare to run wild here? Don't hurt other people's lives. Take a stick from me, old son." A fiery red light swooped over. Chen Haitian, who was strategically dodging, was stunned when he saw this scene, and then he reacted. "Old son? It's him. Why is he here?" When Chen Haitian heard the old son, he remembered the voice. "Old son, I'm leaving." Now this person should be the owner of that voice. Thor also heard this, and looking at the fiery red light swooping down from the sky, he also recognized that the other party was the hairy-faced monster he met. But Sif and others didn't understand this scene. I saw that the fiery red light instantly turned into an arrogant and unruly figure, swooping in front of a destroyer at a high speed, swinging an iron rod, and with a clang sound, it hit the destroyer's body, like hitting a baseball bat, knocking it out. With a bang, it embedded in the wall. This feeling is not flesh and blood. Lin Feng knew that the other party was a destroyer, not a living being. But he was now playing the role of Sun Wukong, and Sun Wukong didn't know this, so he had to pretend that he didn't know. But seeing the person in front of him appear in this way, and just a stick to knock the destroyer away, Chen Haitian was stunned and couldn't believe his eyes. At the same time, his worldview collapsed. Someone can actually turn into light. How did he do this? And Sif and the others were also stunned, as if they had seen something incredible. Who is this person? He actually knocked the destroyer away with a stick. Is there such a strong person on this low-level planet? Thor was also shocked. However, he changed his mind and thought that the other party could pick up Mjolnir, which his father had banned, which showed that he was quite powerful. Although this hairy face doesn't know his identity, judging from the fact that he attacked the destroyer, it should be ruled out that he was sent by Loki. But can he deal with 18 destroyers? Thor didn't know the depth of the other party, but he knew about the destroyer, which was an extremely powerful weapon. Right now, this hairy-faced man could handle one destroyer, but if he faced 18 of them, he would definitely lose. Asgard. Seeing this, Loki was completely confused. Who was this hairy-faced man? He had never seen such a person around Thor, so this person should not be Thor's friend. He was either a native of the Earth or not. But the Earth was a low-level planet, and it was impossible for such a strong man to appear, so it should be the latter. Then, Loki didn't think much about it. No matter who the other party was, anyone who helped Thor must die. With 18 destroyers in my hand, anyone who stands in my way will die. Loki sneered. He was fully confident that he could kill Lin Feng. Destroyer, come on. Boom. The destroyer embedded in the wall struggled to come out, and it didn't seem to be a big deal. However, the place where Lin Feng hit it with a stick had a large dent. Lin Feng said in surprise. You monster took a stick from me, Sun Wukong, and you can actually stand up. Lin Feng came here to do a heroic mission, and by the way, let the image of Sun Wukong be exposed to the public, and officially began to promote the myths of China. The destroyer stood firm, and a fiery red light began to emerge from his chest, and his face began to glow. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng said happily, "It's okay to take a stick from your grandfather's son again." Ah! Lin Feng shouted, jumped up more than 10 meters high, then held the golden hoop tightly and smashed it towards the destroyer. The destroyer also shot out rays of light and blasted towards Lin Feng. Bang! Boom boom boom. The golden hoop hit the light and burst out a deafening sound. But the light did not hinder the speed of the golden hoop falling. Lin Feng was unstoppable, and the golden hoop with a force of 10,000 pounds against the light hit the head of the destroyer. With a bang, the ground collapsed, forming a crack pit. The destroyer was smashed into a pile of scrap copper and iron, embedded in the center of the pit. There was no light anymore, and it had become a dead object. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Chen Haitian couldn't believe his eyes, and Thor and his friends were even more so. They knew how powerful the destroyer was. It was a war weapon of the god realm Asgard, but now it was broken by a hairy-faced weirdo with a stick. Where did this person come from? It shouldn't be possible for such a strong man to appear on this low-level planet. Could it be that he was from Zeus's side? Thor and his friends became more and more curious about Lin Feng's origins. Bang, bang. Lin Feng used the golden hoop to poke the destroyer, which had become scrap metal, and said in surprise, It's weird. This guy is not a flesh and blood body, but he doesn't even have a soul. But he has spirituality, a strange thing. Asgard. Loki couldn't believe his eyes when he saw this scene. Chapter 9:17 Destroyers attack Lin Feng. Loki just shared the vision with the destroyer that was smashed into scrap metal. So when Lin Feng's golden hoop fell down, he felt it most directly, as if the golden hoop was going to hit him. Moreover, he had an irresistible feeling. At that moment, his hair stood on end, his scalp was numb, and cold sweat broke out on his body. Where does this man come from? Loki frowned. But soon, he didn't think much about it, and regained his indifferent look. No matter who it is, if he helps Thor, he will die. Destroyer, kill him. Bang. Loki slammed his scepter heavily on the smooth floor tiles, making a heavy sound. He urged the remaining 17 destroyers to attack together. Originally, it was easy for a destroyer to deal with Thor, who had lost all his divine power and Mjolnir. But in order to avoid any omissions and accidents, Loki sent out 18 destroyers. Unexpectedly, these 18 destroyers were used after all. And under the attack of so many destroyers, this hairy face will definitely die. Buzz, a dense buzzing sound sounded, and the remaining 17 destroyers' eyes flashed red, and then they collectively rushed towards Lin Feng. Not good. Seeing this scene, Chen Haitian, who had already returned strategically, changed his face. One steel giant can be defeated. But how can 17 steel giants fight together? Chen Haitian's heart became extremely uneasy. If this old sun loses, then the city is likely to fall. Thor and his pupils also shrank, and they were panicked. The destroyers are very powerful. One Sodin sent 6 destroyers to easily destroy a notorious interstellar bandit. Now these 17 together, this old sun will definitely lose. What should I do? Just when several people were worried, the 17 destroyers had already rushed to Lin Feng and launched an attack. Lin Feng looked at the 17 destroyers flying over and blocked his way forward. He laughed arrogantly. Ha ha ha, let's go together, right? Then I'll let you have a taste of Grandpa Sun's methods. Ah! Lin Feng shouted. The concrete floor shattered, and his body was ejected like a cannonball. Holding the golden hoop, he fought with the 17 destroyers. Ding, ding, ding. Ha! The 17 destroyers fought back and forth with Lin Feng, and it was hard to tell who was the winner. The sound of golden swords kept ringing. Everyone present was stunned when they saw this scene. Because this battle was too shocking. One person alone took on 17 destroyers. Especially Thor and his men. They had fought many battles, but it seemed that they had never been so shocked. You know, the enemy is not something else, but a powerful weapon of war like the destroyer. Moreover, this old Sun fought with ease and did not fall into the disadvantage at all. However, it also had a lot to do with his fast speed. Every time, he could accurately block the destroyer's fist and foot attacks, or the light attacks, and then quickly attack the destroyer. The iron rod in his hand would often cause a large dent. The people present had a new understanding of the strength of this old Sun. At this moment, under the airtight siege of 17 destroyers, Lin Feng shouted on the spot, and a fiery red light burst out of his body. Then he took the golden hoop and used a move to sweep away thousands of troops. With himself as the center, a fiery red whirlwind was formed. Bang bang bang. The destroyers from all directions were swept by the golden hoop and all flew backwards and smashed into the surrounding walls. There was no more destroyer around Lin Feng. Hiss. Seeing this scene, Chen Haitian, Thor and others all took a breath of cold air. Their faces were very surprised. Ha ha ha. Lin Feng carried the golden hoop and laughed unruly. You monsters, get up and fight again. Asgard. Loki was also very frightened when he saw this scene. He did not expect that the strength of this hairy-faced monster was beyond his imagination. However, in the face of absolute strength, everything was already destined. Boom. Loki slammed his scepter on the ground, making a heavy humming sound. Destroyers, launch the death ray together to kill this hairy-faced monster. Boom. 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 17 destroyers came out of the wall at the same time. Some had broken arms, lame legs, collapsed shoulders, or flattened heads. However, they were still able to move. They stood firm and headed towards Lin Feng. A fiery red light began to emerge from their chests, and a light also began to emerge from their faces. This was obviously going to launch a ray together. Oh no. Chen Haitian, Thor and others changed their faces. They all knew how powerful this ray was. With so many destroyers launching rays together, this old Sun would definitely die. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng also realized what they were going to do. However, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he stretched out his hand and waved. Come on. Chen Haitian's scalp was numb when he saw this scene. He realized that this old Sun might not know the power of this light. Thinking of the fact that this light had scratched a crack in the ground and smashed a 3 or 4 ton military vehicle, his face turned pale. He immediately ran out of the safe area regardless of the danger and shouted to Lin Feng, that old Sun, run away quickly, this light is very powerful. But he was still a step too late. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a rumbling sound, and 17 destroyers simultaneously shot death rays towards Lin Feng's position. Bang! 17 death rays gathered together and collided. In an instant, the world rang with a deafening sound, and at the same time, a terrifying hot air wave was set off, and the glass of the nearby buildings was all shattered and fell down. Chen Haitian, Thor and several others, as well as many soldiers were hit by the air wave, and all flew backwards, and fell down after hitting objects. All the parked cars were overturned and moved horizontally. This kind of power is so terrifying. Woo woo woo. The car alarm sounded non-stop. Chen Haitian's back hurt and his skin was red. This was due to the impact of the hot air wave, but fortunately there was no burn. He struggled to get up, but his ears were full of buzzing sounds. His head and face were also covered with dust, and he was very embarrassed. He shook his head and forced himself to wake up, but it was still useless. His brain was still dizzy. He looked around again, and his heart sank. So tragic! Exclamation mark. Suddenly, he thought of something again and hurriedly looked at where Lin Feng was. But he saw that there was no one there, and his heart sank directly. It's over. Old Sun lost. Not even a corpse was left. Chen Haitian had regarded Old Sun as a superhero who saved them. But now the superhero has sacrificed himself. What should he do? Do we really need to transfer heavy firepower weapons? But what about this city? What about the citizens in the city? Chen Haitian felt helpless for a moment, thinking, if China had gods like Western countries, he could ask for help from gods. But China has no gods. Thor and his men also struggled to get up from the ground. Seeing the tragic scene around them, they were also shocked. Then, they looked at where Lin Feng was, but they also didn't see anyone, not even a corpse. They were immediately panicked. Old Sun was dead, and not even a corpse was left. Chapter 10. Beat them all. Beat them all. Ha 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 ha. Loki held the scepter and laughed loudly. The hairy-faced monster who blocked him was dead, and no one could stop him now. Thor must die. And the earth ants around him, if they dare to attack the gods, they must die. Loki said wildly. Buzz 17 destroyers began to move in all directions. Some came towards Chen Haitian, and some came towards Thor and his men. It was obvious that they wanted to destroy everyone present. Not good. Chen Haitian saw this scene and his face was panic. He immediately ordered the soldiers to prepare for the second round of attack. Although it had no effect, it could delay for a while, and there was no time to hesitate, so they had to use weapons with high lethality. Thor and his men also looked tense. Sif and the other 4 had resolute faces, holding weapons in their hands, ready to sacrifice for the battle. The destroyers had already moved in all directions to destroy everyone present. But at this moment, a defiant voice rang out from the sky. You monsters, is this all you have? Hearing this, the panicked Chen Haitian was startled, and then he looked up at the sky without hesitation. He saw a figure standing in the sky. It was Leo's son. It's him. He didn't sacrifice. Chen Haitian was ecstatic. At this moment, he was more excited than when he scored more than 650 points in the college entrance examination. Immediately, he remembered something, and hurriedly picked up the intercom and said, "Don't attack for now. Don't attack. Leo's son has not sacrificed yet, and the battle is not over yet. If you launch an attack, it is very likely that Leo's son will be hit." After Chen Haitian gave the order urgently, he looked at the figure in the sky again. The fiery red cloak fluttering in the wind, carrying an iron rod, and standing in the sky, was so handsome. Thor and the others were also shocked when they saw this scene. Leo's son didn't die! Exclamation mark. He is still alive. However, just when everyone was excited that Lin Feng did not sacrifice himself, Loki was furious at this scene. Damn it, he didn't die. Did he jump into the air in time to avoid the attack? Loki thought of this. But then, he didn't think much about it. Since I didn't hit him once, let's do it again. Loki immediately urged the destroyer to continue attacking Lin Feng. Buzz the destroyer stopped immediately, turned around, raised his head, and looked at Lin Feng in the sky. Lin Feng did flash into the air to avoid the destroyer's light just now. But it would be fine if he didn't avoid it. Although he only has 10% of Sun Wukong's power now, Sun Wukong is an existence that cannot be refined in the 8 diagrams furnace. How can the destroyer's light cause him harm? Seeing this scene, Lin Feng said disdainfully, "You monsters, it's your grandpa son's turn to take action." Ah. Bang. Lin Feng swooped down quickly, so fast that a sonic boom occurred, raised the golden hoop, and smashed it hard on the head of a destroyer. Bang. The ground collapsed, and a cracked pit appeared. The destroyer had turned into a pile of scrap copper and iron, embedded in the center of the pit. Lin Feng quickly turned into a fiery red light, and rushed towards another destroyer. Then he showed his true form, raised the golden hoop, and smashed it down on the head of the destroyer with a force of 10,000 pounds. Bang. The ground collapsed and cracks appeared. This destroyer also turned into an irregular discus embedded in the center of the cracked pit. Lin Feng turned into a ball of fiery red light, and rushed towards another destroyer. When he came in front of it, he showed his true form, and another stick fell, smashing it into a discus. Then the 4th, 5th, 6th. Seeing Lin Feng physically flatten the steel giant in such a violent way, Chen Haitian was shocked, and couldn't help himself. He never thought that this old son had such strength. He thought that old son would lose from the beginning. Hiss. Chen Haitian took a breath, and came back to his senses. At this moment, seeing Lin Feng flatten the destroyer in such a violent way, he was excited and inspired. He wished he had such strength, and flattened a steel giant with one stick. Because it was so cool. It was a pity that he didn't have such ability. This strength is too strong. If China had myths, then the gods in the myths should be in this posture, right? Seeing Lin Feng dressed in ancient costumes, he turned into a fiery red light, and rushed towards a destroyer. Then he showed his true body, smashed it with a stick, and made a loud noise. The steel giant was smashed into a discus, and embedded in the pit. Chen Haitian thought to himself. But he didn't know that he guessed right this time. Thor and others were also shocked. They never thought that one day, the destroyer would be destroyed in this way. Asgard. Loki was completely stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes. The destroyers were being flattened one by this hairy-faced weirdo swinging an iron rod. Damn it. Loki was furious. He knew that he had underestimated the strength of this hairy face. Where did he come from? How could he be so powerful? Loki once again became curious about the origin of this hairy-faced monster. And at this moment, his killing intent towards the hairy-faced monster was even greater than Thor's. Because he had sent these 18 destroyers to kill Thor, but now they were all destroyed by Lin Feng. This was equivalent to a Cheng Yaojin showing up halfway and ruining his plan. Bang! There was a loud bang. The ground collapsed, forming a cracked pit, and an irregular discus appeared in the center of the pit. This was the last destroyer. So far, all 18 destroyers have been destroyed by Lin Feng, and all of them were violently smashed into discus. Lin Feng flew to the ground, carrying the golden hoop on his shoulder, and looked at the irregular discus in the pit. After destroying these destroyers, I should be able to complete the heroic mission, right? Lin Feng thought to himself. Sure enough, the system prompt sound rang in his ears. Ding. Congratulations to the master for completing the heroic mission. The shock value reward is being settled. Settlement completed. Congratulations to the master for obtaining 5,000 shock value points. 5,000 points? That's so much. Lin Feng was delighted. Shock value can be used to purchase character cards, so the more the better. By then, unlocking the character cards of gods and Buddhas, and showing all the mythological characters of China, wouldn't it be awesome? The more Lin Feng thought about it, the more excited he became. Besides, after I finish this role-playing, there will be role-playing points settled. I wonder how many role-playing points I can get after a battle? Lin Feng said again. Role-playing points can be used to improve role-playing permissions and gain stronger character strength, so the more the better. Chen Haitian was completely relieved when he saw that the battle was over. This city was saved. Immediately, he looked at Lin Feng again. If this old son didn't show up this time, the consequences would be disastrous. But who is he? How can he have such magical power? Chen Haitian hesitated and walked towards Lin Feng. He planned to ask about the other party's identity. Since the other party is helping them, it means that he is not a bad person and they need to get to know him. However, facing such an unknown strong man, they must be extremely respectful. Chapter 11. Odin wakes up, and Loki is frightened. Chen Haitian walked behind Lin Feng and said respectfully, Mr. Sunday. Lin Feng turned around with the golden hoop on his shoulder, looked Chen Haitian up and down, and guessed that he should be the leader of a department. However, he was now playing the role of Sun Wukong, so he had to speak from the perspective of Sun Wukong. He smiled and said, young man, these monsters have been killed, don't be afraid. Hearing this, Chen Haitian was completely sure that the other party was here to save them. But why did he speak a little strangely? It seemed that there was a different kind of emotion. And why did he call me a young man? Chen Haitian was a little confused. However, he didn't think much about it and said respectfully again, yes, thank you very much Mr. Sun for coming to save us. What is Mr. Sun's full name? Mr. Sun? What kind of strange title is this? My name is Sun Wukong, and my title is the Great Sage Equaling Heaven. Lin Feng slammed the golden hoop on the ground, making a dong sound. The Great Sage Equaling Heaven? Chen Haitian was shocked. Although he had never heard of it, it felt so domineering. Then Sun Wukong, the Great Sage Equaling Heaven, where do you live? Chen Haitian wanted to investigate. Home. Lin Feng heard the words, thought about it, and suddenly became melancholy, looking into the distance and said, the stars move, the world changes, it's better not to mention it. These words confused Chen Haitian. What does it mean? But seeing Lin Feng's melancholy expression, he thought about it, and didn't ask in detail. Maybe there was a reason why the other party didn't want to say it? Just when Chen Haitian was thinking about it, Lin Feng looked at him again and said, young man, the monster has been killed. I should go. See you later. After that, he jumped straight and turned into a fiery red light and flew away at a high speed. Soon, he disappeared. Chen Haitian stared blankly. When Lin Feng flew away just now, he felt a mysterious power bursting out of Lin Feng. This shocked him greatly, and he couldn't help but imagine, if he also had such a power, to fly into the sky and hide in the ground. How great would it be? However, he actually wanted to invite Lin Feng to join the country just now. With such power, it would be great to join the country. But before he could remember to say it, Lin Feng flew away. Forget it. If there is another chance to meet, we will mention it then, Chen Haitian said. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Thor and the others. After thinking about it, he walked over. Thor and Sif and the other 4 gathered together. The 5 people were still shocked by the battle just now. At this time, seeing an Earth human coming over, the 5 people also became alert. Chen Haitian walked up to them, raised his hand and saluted, and then said in a business-like attitude that was completely opposite to when he faced Lin Feng just now. Those steel giants just now came for the 5 of you, right? When Chen Haitian arrived at the scene just now, he saw that only Thor and the other 5 were left at the scene. Moreover, Sif and the other 4 were dressed so strangely, so he wondered if they were coming for the 5 of them. After all, aliens would not use alien technology to attack a foot massage parlor because it was too abstract. Yes. Thor nodded truthfully. Hearing this, Chen Haitian verified his guess and said, the identities of several of you are in doubt. Please come with us and accept the investigation. Thor wanted to refuse because he still had to find Mjolnir and return to Asgard to deal with Loki. But when he turned around and saw that Sif and the other 4 were injured, he had to agree first, and then asked if he could help treat his friends who were injured. Of course. Chen Haitian nodded, then picked up the intercom and gave orders. After everything was done, suddenly, the phone rang. Chen Haitian took out his phone, but when he saw the caller ID, his face immediately tightened, and he answered without hesitation. Hello, this is Chen Haitian. Director Chen, the US Shield sent a notice saying that a terrorist organization stole an important item and was smuggling to the Chinese city of Aodu. Is there such a thing? Chen Haitian was shocked. Well, the other party continued. According to them, this item is very dangerous. You should immediately put down what you are doing and go to Aodu to capture this terrorist organization. Don't let them do evil in Aodu. Yes. Chen Haitian replied. The call was hung up. Chen Haitian stared at the phone, not knowing what he was thinking. At the same time, Asgard, Loki sat on the throne gloomily, holding the scepter in his right hand. The plan to send the destroyer to kill Thor failed, which made him very angry. Thor is his stumbling block. Only when he dies can he sit on the throne safely. I have to find another way to kill Thor, and that old Sun. Loki gritted his teeth. Old Sun ruined his plan, and he must not be left alive. But at this moment, something strange happened. A terrifying will locked onto Loki. At the same time, a majestic and angry voice resounded through the palace. Loki. Loki heard this, his hair stood on end, and his soul was about to be scared out of his body. It's Odin. How did he wake up? Loki's face was pale, and he was in a trance. He never expected that Odin, who had fallen into a deep sleep, would suddenly wake up. Loki didn't have time to think about it. With Odin's ability, he must have known that he was about to launch a war against Jotunheim and send the destroyer to kill Thor. What would happen if he was caught by him? Loki hurriedly put down his scepter, cast a spell, hid in the shadows, and quickly sneaked away. The moment he left, there was a rumble, and a colorful holy light descended in front of the throne. The holy light dissipated, and Odin's old figure appeared. If Loki had left a second later, he would have been face to face with Odin. Odin looked at the empty throne, his expression very sad and worried. Damn it. How did he suddenly wake up? Loki walked out of the darkness, his face unwilling and angry. His war plan to destroy Jotunheim was about to be implemented. Now that Odin has woken up, the kingship automatically returned to Odin, and he could no longer control Asgard. No, now is not the time to be unwilling. Loki said anxiously, I have to find a place to hide. If I'm caught by Odin, it will be over. He sent the destroyer to kill Thor, and he also wanted to wage war against Jotunheim. Odin would definitely not easily bypass him. But where can the 9 realms hide? Heimdall's eyes can see me at any time. Loki was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, and he no longer had the grace and attitude he had before. But suddenly, he saw the space cracks under the rainbow bridge, and a light flashed in his mind. Maybe I can use these space cracks to avoid Heimdall's eyes. He can't see the situation in the space cracks. These space cracks have unknown dangers, and jumping down is almost dead. But there is no way at the moment, so he can only take a gamble. Anyway, if he is caught by Odin, he will not end well. Loki took a deep breath, with a determined look on his face, rushed forward, and then jumped down without hesitation, his figure submerged in the space crack. Chapter 12 found the information about Sun Wukong. The news that the destroyer had come to Earth had spread online, because there were so many citizens hiding at the scene. And there were citizens on other streets taking videos with their mobile phones and posting them online. Such videos were extremely shocking and popular, so they spread in a short time and caused great shock. It was even more shocking than when the Iron Man video of the United States was released at that time. Netizens saw in the video that more than a dozen colorful rainbows descended from the sky, and after landing on the ground, more than a dozen steel giants appeared. These dozen steel giants were 3 or 4 meters tall. Then one of them fired a ray at a store called Red Romantic Footbath City. Then 4 foreigners in strange costumes appeared and fought with one of the steel giants, but they were all knocked down. Then the Chinese military arrived and attacked these steel giants. But the guns and cannons poured on the steel giants, but they did not cause any damage. Instead, the steel giants were enraged, and when they were about to fire a ray to destroy everyone present, suddenly, a voice sounded in the sky. "Hey, where did you come from, monster? How dare you run wild here? Don't hurt other people's lives. Take my stick." Then, a fiery red light swooped down from the sky and turned into a figure. He swung an iron rod and knocked a steel giant away. Then, there was a shocking battle. In the end, these dozen steel giants were actually smashed into discuses by this old sun. Netizens were shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. At the same time, the worldview collapsed. Fuck, is this video real? Are you sure it's not a movie? This is too shocking. It's not a movie, I guarantee it with my life. Because I have seen videos shot from different angles. It's not a movie. I saw it with my own eyes at the scene. I was so scared that I almost peed my pants and hid in the building and didn't dare to move. If it weren't for this old sun, the people and buildings around would have been destroyed. Fuck, that was really dangerous. But where did these steel giants come from? Could they be made by Tony Stark from the United States? Impossible, the way these steel giants appeared. Do you think he could have made them? And why did he do this? That's right. Use your brains upstairs, okay? Oh my god, it suddenly occurred to me. Could these steel giants be alien technology? Could they be related to the previous fall of the colorful meteor? I thought so too. And this old sun should be the same person who shouted old sun, I'm leaving at that time. Fuck, we thought of the same thing. Who is Leo Sun? He is so powerful, is he also an alien? For a time, the whole network was hotly discussing this matter. On Weibo, there were many more popular search bars for Leo Sun. I'm Leo Sun, I'm going to die. Leo Sun showed his true self. Leo Sun has an extremely powerful strength. Who is Leo Sun? Could he be an alien? Why does Leo Sun dress so much like the clothes of ancient China? There were also many questions and answers about Leo Sun on Bahu. One of the questions and answers was very popular. The question was, there have never been supernatural phenomena before. Why have they appeared one after another in this period of time? Many people answered this question, and one of them was highly praised. Think about it carefully, it is indeed the case recently. Since Tony Stark in the United States created such an iron suit, our China first had the colorful meteor falling incident, and it is said that the official did not find anything at the place where it fell. Then there are the dozen or so steel giants with alien technology, and finally there is this powerful but unknown old sun. So I wonder, if our Earth has entered a special period, will there be more and more supernatural phenomena in the future? However, there are pros and cons. When bad things happen, there will definitely be good things. For example, the appearance of this old sun. So, everyone, be prepared. Maybe what I said will really happen, and we are about to usher in a supernatural era. This question and answer has caused many people to think deeply. At the same time, King University history professor Fang Minimum is watching the most popular video on the internet. He is the most authoritative professor in China and has been exploring the history of China all his life. It can be said that his achievements in China are second to none. Fang Minimum has watched the video many times over and over again. Every time he sees Lin Feng's figure appear, he is nervous and excited, and even his breathing becomes rapid. The image of monkey holding an iron rod in his hand with great magical powers. It really looks like it. Fang Minimum said excitedly. In his middle age, he went to a deep mountain to conduct archaeological research on an ancient relic. Many books were dug up there. Among them, there was a worm-eaten fragment which recorded this image. Lin Feng's home. Sure. A fiery red light appeared out of thin air and turned into Lin Feng. Lin Feng exhaled, followed by excitement and excitement. This time, playing the role of Sun Wukong, he had a good fight. It was so cool and exciting, and he still felt unsatisfied. I don't know when the next hero mission will appear. Lin Feng smiled. Then, he moved his mind and cancelled the role. Boom. A fiery red light flashed, and he turned back to his original appearance. At this time, the system prompt sounded. Ding. This role is being settled. Settlement completed. Congratulations, Master. This role has a total of 920 points. So many? Lin Feng was a little surprised. The last time he played, he seemed to have only gained 158 points. This time, the Master fought, and there was a combat bonus, so he gained a lot of points. I see. Lin Feng thought about it and understood. The role-playing with fighting is naturally very different from the role-playing without fighting. At least the power of Sun Wukong is used for a long time. Master, with the points from the last role-playing, you currently have a total of 1078 points. Do you want to deduct 1000 points and obtain the second level role-playing authority of Sun Wukong? The system reminded me last time that 1000 points can obtain the second level role-playing authority of Sun Wukong. Hearing this, Lin Feng did not hesitate and immediately said, deduct. Ding. The deduction is successful. You currently have the second level role-playing authority of Sun Wukong. When you play Sun Wukong again, you will have 20% of Sun Wukong's strength. Good. Lin Feng smiled. There are many powerful races in the universe, so the stronger the strength, the better. System, call up the personal panel. Lin Feng said. After the words fell, a virtual panel appeared in front of him. Name, Lin Feng. Role card, Sun Wukong. Second level role-playing authority, Tathagata Buddha. First level role-playing authority. Playing points, Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, role-playing points cannot be used universally. The role-playing points of a character can only be used for that character. Shock value. 5990 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase goods in the store, including but not limited to mythical character cards. Chapter 13 Loki is not dead, he is in danger. There are already nearly 6,000 shock points, and as the matter ferments, more and more people know about it, and the shock value is constantly increasing. Lin Feng said. The system said before that completing the hero mission and the heat caused by the role-playing will increase the shock value. At this time, the shock value is constantly rising by +1. It is obvious that the matter of destroying the destroyer is fermenting. Lin Feng smiled and said, however, there is no need to buy other role cards for the time being. I still have a role card of Tathagata Buddha in my hand that has not been used. Moreover, Sun Wukong has just appeared in front of the public, and the myth and legend point has not yet spread. At this time, even if you play other mythological characters, the public does not know where they came from, so there is no point. So, let the bullets fly for a while. Wait for the myth and legend point to gradually appear and attract social attention, and then play other roles. This can better reflect the authenticity of the myth and gain more shock points. Lin Feng is playing a big game. He wants the Chinese mythology of this world to reappear and let the public know that the Chinese mythology is real. In this way, the mythological characters he plays again will have a background which can better attract public attention and heat. Lin Feng was thinking happily. At this moment, a cell phone rang. Lin Feng took out his cell phone and saw that it was a call from his good friend Tang Yiming. It had been a long time since Lin Feng came to this world, so he naturally became familiar with the interpersonal relationships of his original body. Lin Feng answered the phone and said familiarly, "Hello, what's the matter? Brother Feng, have you seen the news on the internet?" "What news? You don't know yet? Where have you been? Did you just wake up?" Tang Yiming shouted. Aliens appeared in Fanglang City. More than a dozen colorful light beams fell from the sky and turned into a group of steel giants. Lin Feng held the phone a little further away from his ear, and after he finished speaking, he joked, "Are you writing a novel here? Talking like this? Oh, this is not the point." Tang Yiming said again, "Let me tell you, these steel giants attacked a foot massage parlor for some reason. Then a group of foreigners in strange costumes appeared and fought with the steel giants. But they failed and were all defeated. Then our Chinese military also rushed over and launched a fierce attack on the steel giants, but it was useless and could not break the steel giants' defenses at all. At the critical moment, a man named Leo's son appeared. He killed all the steel giants with a stick." After Tang Yiming finished speaking, Lin Feng said, "I already knew about what you said." "You knew? Did you see the video online?" Tang Yiming immediately got excited. "Do you think old Sun is super handsome and super strong?" "Yeah." Lin Feng thought to himself, "I didn't see the video online, but I'm old Sun. Besides, you haven't seen a stronger mythological figure yet." Lin Feng also had a card of the Buddha in his hand. "Ha ha ha, great minds think alike." Tang Yiming laughed and said, "I tell you, I have already regarded this old Sun as my idol. I just called my dad and said that I want to change my last name to Sun, but he didn't agree and scolded me. Alas. Old pedantic man. Damn, not that bad." Lin Feng quickly advised, "I have heard a lot of brain dead fans, but this is the first time I have seen it today. Forget it, let's not talk about this sad thing. I called you to talk about this, and because I found a problem with old Sunday." "What problem?" "Many people on the internet say that old Sun is an alien like those steel giants, but I don't think so, because his clothes are the same as those of our ancient Chinese. So, I think he may be related to our ancient China. I want you to come over and check the ancient books and materials together to see if we can find any clues about this old Sun or something." Tang Yiming became more and more excited as he spoke. "If we really find records about old Sun, we will become celebrities." Tang Yiming and Lin Feng are both folk history researchers and enthusiasts. There are books about history in their home that can fill up an entire wall. When Lin Feng heard this, he smiled and said, "Ask me about this. I know everything about that old Sun." "You don't talk nonsense. I don't believe it. I don't even know where this old Sun came from. How can you know?" Tang Yiming didn't believe what Lin Feng said at all. The scene changed. Somewhere in the universe, Loki was lying on a piece of rubble. There were large and small pieces of gravel floating around. Loki slowly opened his eyes, but felt a pain in his body. He didn't know what he had experienced. "I'm still alive, not dead," Loki murmured. He was somewhat relieved. He jumped off the rainbow bridge, but he didn't die. "I survived a disaster, so something good should happen, right?" Loki said, and forced himself to sit up. But when he saw the surrounding environment, he couldn't help but show doubt in his eyes. "Where is this place?" Loki didn't know where he came to through the time crack. But at this moment, a dangerous atmosphere appeared. Loki's hair stood on end, and he instantly activated witchcraft to sneak. His figure was hidden in the darkness, and he moved along the dark place to another piece of gravel. Swoosh. Bang. Suddenly, a red stream of light flew at a high speed, inserted into the position where he was before, and half of it was immersed. Looking closely, it turned out to be a spear full of technology. Loki's figure appeared, and he looked ugly when he saw this scene. If he had left a second later, he would have been fixed there. He just said that he had survived a disaster, and now another crisis has occurred. "Damn old Sun, damn Thor, it's all your fault." Loki attributed all this to Thor and Lin Feng. He waved his arms, and two daggers with strange shapes appeared in his hands. He looked around angrily and shouted, Who attacked me? Come out and die." As soon as the words fell, dap, there were footsteps behind him. Loki turned around quickly and saw an ugly but tall alien. Loki's expression was tense, and he was ready to attack. But suddenly, seeing the other party's clothes, Loki frowned. "You are from the Chitauri Legion. Are you Thanos' men?" Hearing this, the other party didn't expect Loki to know about the Chitauri Legion, so he nodded and said, "Yes." Then, he also saw that something was wrong with Loki. "You have the aura of the disgusting Asgard, the power of witches, and the aura of the frost giants who only hide in the cold darkness. You are very strange." "Shut up." Loki waved his arm and said excitedly, "I'm an Asgardian. I don't have the aura of a frost giant. If you say that again, I will kill you." The other party ignored Loki's out of control emotions. He shook his head and said, "No matter who you are, trespassing into the Chitauri army without permission is a capital crime." Chapter 14 Loki's deal with Thanos. Thanos' men reached out to grab the spear. With a boom, a flash of red light appeared inside the rubble, and it exploded directly, and then the spear swooshed back into his hand. Then, with his tall body, he raised the spear and pointed it at Loki. A bright red light emerged from the spear, accompanying his tall body, which was extremely oppressive. Facing this scene, Loki also looked solemn, and did not dare to take it lightly. The Chitauri army is terrifyingly powerful. It is said that several men recruited by Thanos himself are particularly powerful. Judging from the clothes and the tone of his voice, this man in front of him should also be one of the men recruited by Thanos himself. They plundered planets everywhere, as if they were looking for the Infinity Stones, but it is unknown what they are going to do with the Infinity Stones. However, Odin seems to have never been interested in the power of the Infinity Stones. Loki's mind was a little scattered, but suddenly, he reacted suddenly and quickly cheered up again. "Damn it, I just came out of the space crack. My mind is still a little confused. I actually lost my mind at this time." Loki gritted his teeth and said secretly, holding the dagger tightly in his hand, staring at the opponent's spear, "As long as the opponent attacks, he will quickly counterattack." But at this moment, the void next to him hummed and flashed a white light. Then, a huge projection appeared. This projection was a head with purple skin. The expression was calm, but there was a strong temperament. Loki was shocked when he saw this projection. Thanos. Thanos also looked at Loki, and his men slowly knelt on one knee. Thanos said lightly, "You are a little special. You must have some connection with Asgard." Loki frowned when he heard this. Although Thanos is powerful, Loki, as the second prince of Asgard, has been above billions of creatures in the 9 realms since he was a child, so he is not afraid of him at all. Thanos made a pondering gesture. Then, he said, "I'm short of people now. Are you willing to be my subordinate? Go to Earth, open the space channel, and let the Chitauri army come to Earth?" When Loki heard this, he knew that the other party wanted to go to Earth to rob the Infinity Stones. Which low-level planet has Infinity Stones? Loki was puzzled. However, he did not think much about it. He hesitated and asked, "What's in it for me?" "After you successfully open the space channel, the Chitauri army will rush into the Earth, and you can command the Chitauri army at will. And after attacking the Earth, you will be the master of the Earth." Thanos promised. Loki's eyes lit up when he heard this. He was not very interested in the master of this Earth. He wanted to be the king of Asgard, but he was very interested in commanding the Chitauri army. The Chitauri army is powerful. If it comes to Earth, I can take them to kill Thor and that old sun. No matter how powerful old sun is, he will definitely not be the opponent of the Chitauri army. Loki said excitedly. Lin Feng had ruined his plan to kill Thor, so he wanted to kill Lin Feng very much. With this in mind, Loki smiled at Thanos and said, "Okay, I promise you, but let me make it clear in advance that I don't want to be your subordinate, but to help you." Thanos was slightly startled. However, this didn't matter to him. He nodded and said, "Yeah." Then, a blue light flashed, and a scepter appeared and floated towards Loki. Loki reached out to take it. The scepter was about 1 meter long, with a bird-like head, shining with beautiful light, and it seemed to contain an inexplicable spiritual power. "This scepter is given to you. It can help you complete the task better," Thanos said lightly. The moment Loki covered the scepter, he felt the power in the blue light and immediately realized the power of the scepter. Mind gem. He took a breath. Then, he calmed down and said, "Haha, with this scepter, this task is simply too easy." Thanos looked at Loki with a smile on his face, and a hint of teasing and expectation flashed in his eyes. Then, he disappeared. Earth, China, National Historical Archives. It was already night, but Professor Fang Minimum was still busy in front of the bookshelf. The Historical Archives contains various precious historical materials, including the books that Fang Minimum dug up when he went to the deep mountain ruins for archaeological excavation in his youth. And what he wanted to find was a worm-eaten fragment of the book he dug up that time. He wanted to see if the person recorded in the fragment was the same person as the old son who appeared in the public eye now. Strange, where did the fragment go back then? Professor Fang Minimum looked puzzled and kept searching on various bookshelves. In order to facilitate the search, he even put all the ancient books he had searched on the ground. These ancient books are very precious. If they were taken outside, those rich bosses who love ancient books would go crazy for them. It was not piled up on the ground like it is now. But at this moment, Fang Minimum could no longer care about so much. He was eager to find the incomplete book, because the information recorded in the incomplete book might subvert the public's cognition. Where did it put it? Fang Minimum's forehead was covered with sweat under his graying hair. He kept looking through the ancient books, and then put the ancient books he had looked through on the ground. After a long search, he was already very tired, but the obsession and excitement in his heart made him persist. Finally, God paid off those who worked hard. When he put the books he had looked through on the ground again, he suddenly saw a black book sandwiched between two ancient books on the second to last shelf of the bookshelf next to him. At the same time, an intuition told him that it was the ancient book he was looking for. Fang Minimum's heart moved, and he hurried forward and took out the ancient book. Seeing this, Fang Minimum was immediately excited. Haha, I found it. I finally found it. This is the incomplete book he had read that year. Fang Minimum smiled. If the character described in this book is exactly the same as that Sun Wukong, what a great discovery this would be. Fang Minimum dug up this book during archaeological excavation in his middle age, but after so many years, he could no longer remember the contents of the book. But if the image described in this fragment is exactly the same as that of Sun Wukong, then this discovery is much more amazing than Columbus' discovery of the New World. Fang Minimum held the black fragment in his hand, feeling both excited and nervous. Needless to say, he was excited. He was nervous because he was worried that he had remembered it wrong, and the image described in this fragment was not that of Sun Wukong. If that was the case, then he was excited for nothing. At the same time, the origin of that Sun Wukong was still unclear. But no matter what, he had found this book, so he had to read it anyway. Fang Minimum took a deep breath and opened the black cover with mixed feelings. He saw that many of the characters on the first yellow-brown page were blurred, and some places were eaten by insects. However, the most eye-catching thing was the character description. The moment Fang Minimum saw this character description, he was shocked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 caused a sensation on the entire network. The origin of Sun Wukong was found. Fang Minimum was so excited that even his hands holding the ancient book were shaking. The character depicted in the ancient book had a hairy face, was dressed in exquisite clothes, and held a stick in his right hand. His facial expression was vivid, unruly and domineering. It's him, with the same appearance. Fang Minimum was excited and quickly looked at the text below. The great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, was born in Huago Mountain. Even the name is the same. Now it can be confirmed that the Sun Wukong is the character recorded in this ancient book. Fang Minimum said excitedly. When I dug out this fragment and read it, I thought it was a biography of strange things, so I didn't take it seriously. I didn't expect that its records were actually true. But suddenly, Fang Minimum thought of something and wondered. However, since that Sun Wukong is a historical figure, how did he live to this day? Is he an immortal ancient person? Fang Minimum pondered. He thought about it, and the power displayed by Sun Wukong seemed to be understandable to immortality. It seems that the era in which Sun Wukong lived should be a remarkable era, and the historical data we currently have lacks information about that era. Fang Minimum frowned. He felt that he had to study the situation in the era in which Sun Wukong lived. This was an extraordinary era. After all, it could give birth to a person like Sun Wukong who was immortal and powerful. However, there is another question. Why did Sun Wukong never appear before, but appear again now? Is it related to the extraordinary events that have emerged recently? Fang Minimum had another doubt. He pondered carefully for a moment and felt that it was not easy to confirm this matter. He had to study it further. Thinking of this, Fang Minimum did not hesitate. He took out his mobile phone and called the president of Huaking University. He wanted to report this matter to the president and then obtain more resources to study and investigate this matter. Hello. After the call was connected, an old voice came from inside. What's up, old Fang? It's so late. I'm lying in bed, ready to go to sleep. Fang Minimum said excitedly. Old Zao, something big has happened. Big? What big? I found out where that Sun Wukong came from. What did you say? Zao Sangayang was shocked. Of course, he had also seen the video about Sun Wukong that was uploaded on the internet. This Sun Wukong's origin is mysterious and has never appeared before. Some say he is also an alien, and there are many such voices. Where are you? Zao Sangayang asked hurriedly. Historical archives. Zao Sangayang was stunned when he heard this. He didn't understand what he was doing there. Could it be related to the origin of Sun Wukong? However, he didn't think much about it. Anyway, he would know when he got there. Okay, I'll come right over. You wait for me there. After that, Zao Sangayang hurriedly got up amid his wife's complaints, put on his clothes and left. He rushed to the archives in a hurry. Zao Sangayang saw Fang Minimum sitting among a pile of ancient books. He hurried up. Old Fang. Fang Minimum saw Zao Sangayang coming and stood up by the bookshelf beside him. Zao Sangayang came up to him and asked directly, you said on the phone that you found out where Sun Wukong came from? Yes. What is his origin? It's a long story. Fang Minimum smiled and said, I once led a team to a deep mountain to conduct archaeological research on a newly discovered relic. There were many ancient books dug up there, among which there was a worm-eaten fragment. The image of the character recorded on it was exactly the same as that of Sun Wukong. Zao Sangayang was shocked when he heard it, took a breath, and hurriedly said, where is the fragment? Let me see it quickly. Fang Minimum handed over the fragment. Zao Sangayang flipped it open and was immediately shocked. It's really the same, he said in surprise. Yes, Fang Minimum said, so that Sun Wukong is not an alien, but an ancient Chinese figure, and the era he lived in was an amazing era that is unknown to us modern people. Amazing era? What do you mean? As soon as Zao Sangayang said this, he was stunned and reacted. Yes, that Sun Wukong can live to this day and has such power, flying into the sky and hiding in the ground. This is enough to show how amazing the era he lived in was. Otherwise, how could he have such power? Seeing Zao Sangayang's stunned expression, Fang Minimum knew that he understood, so he didn't explain too much, but said, what we have to do now is to study the situation of that era. This is something that can shock the world. Moreover, maybe after studying it clearly, it will be beneficial to our current era. Yeah. Zao Sangayang agreed with Fang Minimum's point of view. This is a big deal. I'll call the higher ups and report this to them. Then, Zao Sangayang reported the matter to his superiors. The higher ups were also shocked and immediately agreed to their investigation and provided any resources to help. You know, this kind of thing is a top priority, no matter which country it is in. And this matter, with the permission of the country, was known to major newspapers and media. Because the internet is spreading that Sun Wukong is an alien, now that information has been found, proving that Sun Wukong is an ancient Chinese figure, it must be promoted well. So for a while, major news media and newspapers rushed to report. Even online platforms such as Zhou, Sohu, Penguin, and even short videos, Douyin, Kuaishao, Bilibili, etc. quickly appeared this news. With many channels, it caused a sensation on the entire network in a short time. The identity of the hero is revealed. He is not an alien. Sun Wukong's identity has been found. Shocked. The identity of the hero turned out to be like this. There are all kinds of news on the internet, but there is only one core, that is, the identity of Sun Wukong has been found. In addition to online media, newspapers are also emitting their last rays of light and heat, creating the feeling of people crowding in front of newsstands waiting to buy a newspaper again. Because this is a moment with special significance, the memory of the internet is limited. If you want to pass it on, the paper version is the best choice. Newsstands are out of stock, bookstores are out of stock, and some people even started to buy the front page of the day at a high price. On the streets, in offices, in schools, and even in mental hospitals, almost everyone is talking about this matter. Fuck. Is this true? The identity of Sun Wukong has been found? No way. Isn't he an alien? How can this be found? Aliens? Who did you hear about aliens? Isn't that what's spread on the internet? If he is an earthling, how could he be so powerful? Even the Iron Man in the United States is not so powerful, right? Yes. What aliens? Your aliens are wearing our ancient clothes? Damn. This news is published, but it's the same as not publishing it. It says that the origin of Sun Wukong has been found, but it won't say it. Yes. Isn't this frustrating? Countless people are curious about the origin of this Sun Wukong. But at this moment, a message from the official website of Wielding University instantly shocked the entire network again. Chapter 16. A professor from the history department of Wielding University gave a lecture. The news was, Wielding University History Department Professor Fang Minimum will explain the origin of Sun Wukong in the Great Hall of Wielding University at 10 o'clock tomorrow. As soon as the news came out, it spread all over the internet. Netizens were stunned. Then, they became excited. Oh my god, they are waiting here? Exclamation mark. Hahaha, did they really find out where Sun Wukong came from? I thought it was a rumor made up by someone, and the whole network believed it. Now Wielding University has come out and said that they are going to hold a lecture, so it must be true. Damn, I was wondering why there was only news about the origin of Sun Wukong, but no details. It turns out that they are going to hold a lecture. Hahaha, a lecture is good, it can explain it more clearly. Fuck. Then I have to buy a ticket to Beijing right away. I want to see it live. I've already bought it, but the software seems to be stuck, and it won't move. Fuck, forget it, I'll just drive to Beijing. Can the person above help me buy a ticket too? I'm a college student. By the way, give me another 200 yuan. Get lost. Fake. It's all fake. Don't buy a ticket to Beijing. This is fake. Don't ask me how I know. I signed a confidentiality agreement, and that's all I can say. What? What does the person above mean? The scheming frog keeps touching your belly. Is the person above worried that everyone will buy tickets to Beijing, which will result in you not being able to buy a ticket? So he said that. PFFT. That's very possible. Fuck, it suddenly dawned on me. Hahaha. The official notice from Wielding University was extremely popular on the internet, and it was on par with the news that Sun Wukong's origins were investigated released by major media before. For a time, a large number of citizens bought tickets overnight, or drove to Beijing by themselves, just to attend this lecture, and listen to Sun Wukong's origins. This can almost be said to be a pilgrimage mentality. This is actually understandable. In modern society, such a powerful person who can fly and hide suddenly appeared. Everyone would be curious about him. Time passed in a flash, and a night passed. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. Professor Fang Minimum was still analyzing the news on the incomplete copy. The incomplete copy had incomplete information, and it was another miscellaneous collection. Moreover, there were only a few pages of records about Sun Wukong, and even many paragraphs were eaten by insects, or the handwriting was blurred and unclear, so it was very difficult to understand the information on it. Seeing Fang Minimum busy all night, Zhao Sangyang, president of Wielding University, could not help but persuade him. Old Fang, you haven't slept all night. Your health is important. Go and have a rest. No, I can't sleep. This matter is too important to modern society. I have to sort out the information I can grasp at present, so that I can give a lecture. Fang Minimum said excitedly. He was not sleepy at all now, and his mind was full of information about this Monkey King. Unfortunately, there was too little information recorded on this incomplete copy. Zhao Sangayang didn't know what to say when he heard this. He could understand this feeling. After all, the appearance of this Monkey King was related to an ancient Chinese era that had never been understood, and it was a magical era. Zhao Sangayang didn't stay in this room anymore. He turned around and left. When he came outside, Zhao Sangayang took out his mobile phone while walking and said, "Old Fang is right. This is a major discovery. It is too important to society, so we must increase our efforts to publicize it." Thinking of this, he dialed a phone. "Hello, President." A voice came from the phone, but it seemed that the other side was very busy with a lot of noisy voices. "Zhao Zeng, contact the TV station and major video websites for me. Oh, and don't forget the radio station. I want to change this lecture to a live broadcast." As soon as Zhao Sangayang finished speaking, Zhao Zeng on the other end of the phone laughed and said, "Principal, there is no need to contact them. The people in charge you mentioned have come to us in person and asked if we can change it to a live broadcast. In addition to domestic ones, foreign TV stations and websites also want to broadcast live." Zhao Sangayang was stunned, but soon understood. This matter is too serious. It is normal for these platforms to want to cooperate. Very good, let's publicize this matter well. Lin Feng's home. Lin Feng woke up from the bed, took the phone, and wanted to see what time it was. But as soon as he turned on the screen, he saw the pushed news. Shock. The origin of Sun Wukong has been found by a professor of the history department of Wielding University. Lin Feng was immediately shocked and woke up. He quickly unlocked the screen and clicked on the news to check. After a moment, Lin Feng smiled in surprise. "The speed is quite fast. I found out where I came from." Lin Feng can also understand. After all, the power displayed by Sun Wukong was too shocking and incredible, so naturally someone would want to investigate Sun Wukong's origins as soon as possible. But at this time, Lin Feng thought of something and said, "System, call up the personal panel and my current shock value growth." After the words fell, a virtual panel appeared in front of Lin Feng. Name, Lin Feng. Role card, Sun Wukong. Secondary role-playing authority, Tathagata Buddha. First level role-playing authority. Playing points, Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, playing points cannot be used universally. The playing points of a character can only be used for that character. Shock value 23,908 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase goods in the store, including but not limited to mythological character role cards. Ding. Shock value increased by 1. Ding. Shock value increased by 1. Fuck, the shock value has reached more than 20,000, and it's still increasing. Lin Feng was surprised. His shock value was more than 5,000 before, and now it has increased to more than 20,000 after one night. It seems that the popularity has increased faster after it has become popular online, faster than completing a hero mission. The last time I completed a hero mission, I only got 5,000 shock points. Lin Feng was full of smiles. Shock points can be used to purchase character cards, so the more the better. If the moon hasn't come out yet, the street lights can also illuminate the windowsill. But at this moment, a cell phone rang. Lin Feng picked up the phone and saw that it was a call from his good friend Tang Yiming. Lin Feng had some idea of the purpose of his calling early in the morning, so he answered the phone. "Hello. Fuck, brother Feng, have you seen the news online?" Tang Yiming shouted. "Sun Wukong's origin has been found." "I saw it." Lin Feng laughed. "It's incredible. I searched for so much information yesterday and couldn't find any clues about this Sun Wukong, but someone actually found it." Tang Yiming expressed surprise and then said, "Brother Feng, are you going to Wielding University to listen to the lecture?" "I'm planning to go." Tang Yiming has already regarded Sun Wukong as his idol, so he must go to the lecture in person. Lin Feng was stunned when he heard this. "We can go and listen to see if what the other party said is right or not." Thinking of this, Lin Feng raised his lips and said, "Okay, you go first. I'll be there soon." Chapter 17 lecture officially begins. Backstage at the Great Hall, Professor Fang Minimum has sorted out the information that has been analyzed so far. Although there is not much information obtained from the incomplete copy, there is information about the origin and birth of Sun Wukong. There are only a few minutes left before the lecture begins. Fang Minimum is excited and nervous, because this is to explain the origin of Sun Wukong, which also means that the veil of a mysterious era that has never been known before will be pulled open, and the leaders above are also paying attention to this matter. Professor Fang Minimum took a deep breath, and then exhaled again, trying to calm down, but found that he couldn't calm down at all, so he simply didn't calm down. At this time, Principal Zhao Sangayang came over in a hurry and asked, "Old Fang, it's almost time. Remember to bring your notes and so on." "I brought them, don't worry." Fang Minimum patted the old-fashioned notebook on the table. Zhao Sangayang nodded repeatedly. He was sweating all over, and then asked the sound and lighting teachers to check the equipment again. Because this is a live broadcast, we must ensure that everything is foolproof. The sound and lighting teachers also said that the equipment is all normal. Soon, it was time. Fang Minimum said something to Zhao Sangayang, and then walked towards the passage leading to the podium under Zhao Sangayang's nervous and expectant gaze. When she walked to the podium, she saw that the seats were full and crowded, and there were many media reporters. Everyone was waiting for the lecture to begin. The online live broadcast was also turned on. At once, a large number of netizens poured in, and barrages of comments flashed across. "Hahaha, I'm the first one. Wow. I was just shouting, wow, it's finally starting. Damn it. I didn't buy a ticket to Beijing, otherwise I would be the only one sitting there. Don't mention it, I'm going to write a big word miserable on your legs. I didn't buy a ticket either, but I drove to Beijing, but now I'm stuck on the highway. There are too many people, it's outrageous. I'm so jealous. I have to go to work, and can't go there at all. I can only watch the live broadcast. Hurry up and start. I've been waiting for a long time. Yeah. Where did Sun Wukong come from? Is he an alien? I made a bet with someone, or 1,000 yuan." Netizens excitedly posted comments, eager to know where Sun Wukong came from. And in the seats, Lin Feng and Tang Yiming also came. The two sat together. Tang Yiming was a bit fat, but when he saw Fang Minimum coming out, he immediately got excited and pulled Lin Feng's arm and said, "Fuck, brother Feng, look, Professor Fang Minimum is coming out." He and Lin Feng were both folk history researchers, so they were naturally very familiar with this kind of official level bigwig. "Yeah." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "I'm really excited. This is the first time I've seen him in person." Tang Yiming said with a smile. "I wonder what he will say later." Tang Yiming was very curious about the origin of Sun Wukong, but he had never found any relevant information. But suddenly, he thought of something, and winked and said, "Brother Feng, didn't you say last time that you also knew about Sun Wukong? Then do you want to go up and say a few words later?" Tang Yiming's words were not malicious, he was just teasing Lin Feng. Lin Feng also knew what he meant. He smiled and said, "It's not impossible. If he is wrong, I will correct his mistake." Hearing this, Tang Yiming curled his lips and said, "Good fellow, I told you that you are fat and you are out of breath." Lin Feng smiled and said nothing more. He looked at Fang Minimum on the podium, expecting what he would say. Professor Fang Minimum looked around and saw the full audience. He was excited and knew that everyone had been waiting for a long time. He was about to speak, but suddenly, he noticed a young man. He didn't know why, but he felt that the young man's eyes seemed a little strange. However, he didn't care and thought he was overthinking. "First of all, welcome everyone here. Our lecture is officially starting now." After that, Fang Minimum took the lead in applauding. The audience also applauded. For a while, the applause was thunderous. Even the principal Zhao Sangayang in the backstage watched this scene and applauded with excitement. Fang Minimum pressed his hands down, and after the applause died down, he smiled and said, "This Monkey King Sun Wukong has been very popular online recently. His mystery and power have made us all very curious about his origins. Some people on the internet say that he is an alien like those steel giants." Fang Minimum paused and said, "But after our research over the past 2 days, we found that this Sun Wukong is not an alien at all. When this was said, many people in the audience were shocked because they all thought that this Sun Wukong was an alien. After all, how could the native people on Earth look so strange and so powerful? Many viewers in the online live broadcast room were also surprised. Fuck, it's not an alien. I always thought it was an alien. Yeah, I think so too. Hahaha, I said it's not an alien. I won the bet and earned 1,000 yuan from my friend. If it's not an alien, what else could it be? The comments were endless. More and more people became excited and curious. Professor Fang Minimum took in the surprised expressions of many people in the audience. He paused and then said, "We found that Sun Wukong was actually an ancient Chinese man in a certain era." Hearing this, the audience in the audience was collectively shocked. The audience in the live broadcast room was also shocked. What? Sun Wukong is actually an ancient Chinese figure? How is this possible? Exclamation mark. Just when everyone was shocked, Professor Fang Minimum said, according to the results of the research, Sun Wukong was born in Huaguo Mountain. He jumped out of a stone and was born in the image of a monkey. He had no father or mother and was born and raised by nature. Later, he went out to sea to seek immortal arts and learned the art of immortality and 72 transformations, as well as the flying magic somersault cloud. One somersault is 108,000 miles. Wow. As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar in an instant. Everyone was shocked again, and they couldn't even believe their ears. Fuck, he jumped out of a stone. So awesome. How did he do that? Immortality, 72 transformations. No wonder he can live to this day, and is so awesome. Damn, I was wondering how he could come and go without a trace. This flying magic is so cool. A somersault can take him 108,000 miles. That's faster than the speed of light. Awesome. Then where did he get his stick? Does it have a name? There was a commotion, some excited voices, some curious and questioning voices. Professor Fang Minimum smiled, raised his hand, and pressed it down, signaling everyone to be quiet. After everyone quieted down, he said, after Sun Wukong learned magic and returned to Huaguo Mountain, some things happened, but we have not found any relevant records of these things. But after these things happened, he went to the Dragon Palace in the East China Sea to seek weapons. So he got the stick. The name of the stick is Ruai Jinggu Bang. It weighs 13,500 kilograms. Wow. These words once again caused an uproar. Chapter 18. Some people doubted, but Fang Minimum faced it calmly. Everyone was shocked. The iron rod in Sun Wukong's hand, which was not even as thick as his wrist, actually weighed 13,500 kilograms. Exclamation mark. Is this true? Oh my god, it's unbelievable. It's so heavy. I thought that the iron rod would weigh at most 20 to 30 kilograms, but I didn't expect it to be so heavy. No, this is not scientific. How can such a thin iron rod weigh 13,500 kilograms? Are you sure? How can this situation be explained by science? That iron rod must be a magical object. That's right. Besides, have you ever thought about it? If that iron rod was an ordinary iron rod, how could it have flattened those steel giants? You know, those steel giants can't even be broken by rockets. Hiss. That makes sense. So, how powerful is Sun Wukong? He can play with a 13,500 kilogram iron rod so well. Yeah. Shocked voices filled my ears. Fang Minimum smiled and continued. After obtaining the golden hoop, Sun Wukong went to a place called Nanshanmen for some reasons. That place was very dangerous. Many people came to besiege Sun Wukong, but they were all defeated by Sun Wukong. After that, Sun Wukong also won the title of the Great Sage equaling heaven. Fang Minimum paused for a moment, then smiled apologetically. Since we have limited clues at present, we have only obtained this information about Sun Wukong. But please rest assured, we will continue to dig out things about Sun Wukong in the future. Once there is new progress, we will announce it as soon as possible. The audience was stunned when they heard this. What? It's over? I haven't heard enough of this yet. However, they came to their senses and applauded. For a time, thunderous applause resounded throughout the venue. Although I didn't get enough of it, it's good to know where Sun Wukong came from. Yeah, I didn't expect him to be an ancient Chinese. Doesn't that mean he's our ancestor? Hahaha, what you said makes sense. We actually have such a powerful ancestor. I really want to know more about Sun Wukong. It's so curious. Yes, that's right. Especially the details of his going out to sea to learn magical powers, seeking the golden hoop, and attacking the Nanshanmen. Yes, yes, yes. I want to know these things too. There was a lot of discussion. Most of the audience wanted to know the details of these stories. But there was no way. Professor Fang Minimum and his team didn't dig up comprehensive information. They just knew the general idea. The audience in the live broadcast room were also discussing this issue. They also wanted to know the details. The applause gradually died down. Tang Yiming stopped clapping and looked at Lin Feng next to him. He said with a little disappointment, "Brother Feng, I thought I could hear detailed information about Sun Wukong, but I didn't expect to only know a general idea." Tang Yiming shook his head and said, "But at least I know his origins." Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Professor Fang Minimum is right. Sun Wukong's origins are indeed like this. However, if you want to know the details of Sun Wukong, you can ask me. I know everything." Okay, how can I not know you? Tang Yiming curled his lips, looking unconvinced. But at this moment, a man raised his hand, stood up, and said, "Professor Fang Minimum, I'm a graduate student in the Department of Art of Huaking University. I have a few doubts about the story of Sun Wukong that you explained." Swish. As soon as this was said, everyone in the audience looked over, including Lin Feng and Tang Yiming. Is there anyone who raises doubts? But Zuzuo was not at all flustered, and seemed not to care about these looks at all. Fang Minimum also looked at Zuzuo. Faced with this sudden situation, he was just stunned for a moment, and then returned to normal. It is normal for someone to have questions in this situation. However, it is not the first time he has encountered this, and this can be regarded as an academic discussion. "Student, if you have any questions, just ask," Fang Minimum said kindly. "Thank you, Professor." Zuzuo first said respectfully, and then asked his question. "Professor, the story you told about Sun Wukong is a bit like the plot in the strange story novels. For example, he was born from a stone, went to sea to learn from a master, and so on. I think history is rigorous, so I don't agree with your statement that it is similar to a strange story." Hiss. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience took a breath. They didn't expect this person to say this. But, thinking about it carefully, it seems to make some sense. So, they all looked at Fang Minimum again, wanting to see how Professor Fang Minimum would answer. But Fang Minimum smiled and said calmly, "Classmate, you asked a good question. When I first found the information about Sun Wukong, I also felt that it was like a strange story novel. But don't forget one thing, the Sun Wukong who appeared in our field of vision is very powerful, which has broken our worldview. So on this basis, do you still think that I'm talking about the plot of a strange story novel?" As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly understood. Yes, Sun Wukong is so powerful, turning into a red light, and flying at high speed, and being able to crush a steel giant with a stick. These are all real things. How can it be the plot of a strange story novel? Zuzuo pondered for a moment, and nodded when he felt it made sense. Then he looked at Fang Minimum again and said, "Second question. You mentioned Huaguo Mountain. So where is this Huaguo Mountain? It seems that I have never heard of this place name from ancient times to the present." Hearing this, Fang Minimum paused. He didn't expect that the other party would ask this question. But he didn't say anything nonsense or guess a location rashly, but shook his head and said truthfully, "I don't know where the problem you mentioned is." When this was said, everyone was stunned. Professor Fang Minimum didn't know where it was. Seeing this, Zuzuo felt a little proud that he had discovered the professor's problem. However, he didn't hold on to this question, but said, "The last question. You said that Sun Wukong was an ancient figure, but how could the ancient Chinese figures be so powerful? If they were so powerful, there would be no records in our historical materials. And Sun Wukong can live forever until now, why can't they?" Everyone was shocked again. This is indeed a big problem. If the ancient Chinese were so powerful, how come we didn't know it all the time? And how come there is a Sun Wukong now? What about other ancient people? Let's not talk about other people. What about those ancient emperors? Everyone had such doubts, including the audience in the live broadcast room, who were also thinking about this question, and even the barrage stopped for a while. When Fang Minimum heard this question, he looked at Zuzuo and said, "This question is easy to explain. First of all, Sun Wukong is very powerful, which everyone can see from the video. Secondly, although our Chinese history is very long and there are many things, there is a big historical gap. I believe everyone knows this. There is no relevant record about this period of history. It is a complete blank period." When everyone heard this, they nodded silently in their hearts. Anyone who has been to school knows about this matter, but why did the professor bring it up? But the next second, Fang Minimum said shockingly, "What if Sun Wukong is a person in this blank period?" Hiss. When this was said, everyone was surprised and shocked. Chapter 19 Lin Feng spoke, and the whole audience was shocked. This makes sense. If Sun Wukong lived in this blank period, then it makes sense that there is no record of him in history. Everyone was thinking about this. Professor Fang Minimum was very satisfied with the reactions of everyone in the audience. He added, "The era in which Sun Wukong lived must have been a magical and remarkable era, because it could give birth to a person like Sun Wukong." Everyone understood what he meant and became excited. Yes, this era is really awesome. It can't be called awesome, it should be called incredible. Yes, it is indeed incredible. I'm really curious about what this era is like. Hahaha, I'm curious too, and I also think, if I was born in that era, wouldn't it mean that I could become like Sun Wukong? There was a lot of discussion. Everyone was full of curiosity about that era, and was eager to learn about the situation in that era. The audience in the live broadcast room were also discussing this matter, and were also full of curiosity. At this moment, even those foreign media people were extremely surprised. The Chinese civilization was once so powerful and glorious. Just the tip of the iceberg is so shocking. What kind of trump card does China have? China is destined to rise soon. This profound historical background is simply unimaginable. But Zuzuo heard this, pondered for a moment, and then looked at Fang Minimum and said, "Professor Fang, the situation you said cannot be verified, right? These are just your guesses, right?" Fang Minimum nodded and said truthfully, "Yes, I was just about to say that." Everyone was a little disappointed when they heard this. It turned out to be just your guess, and I thought it was true. Everyone thought about it, and felt that it was right. If it was really like what Professor Fang Minimum said, then that era was also a blank period in Chinese history. There were no relevant records, and it was impossible to verify it. The atmosphere at the scene was somewhat lowered. Fang Minimum saw this situation, and felt a little complicated. He had to be responsible for academics, so he would not say those unverified words. At this moment, he wanted to say something to liven up the atmosphere, but he found that he didn't know what to say. Just when he was thinking of something to say, he suddenly saw a young man stand up and said, "Although there is no way to verify what Professor Fang said, it is not false." Fang Minimum was stunned when he heard this, and then he realized that this was the young man I thought was strange just now. But why did he say that? All the audience also noticed Lin Feng and became curious. Who is this person? I don't know. Fuck, what did I hear just now? He actually said that what Professor Fang said was right. He was confirming what Professor Fang said, but Professor Fang himself is not sure. Is he more knowledgeable than Professor Fang? How is this possible? Good guy, I guess he wants to show off. Hiss. It's possible. After all, it's a live broadcast now. That's too abominable, right? Don't you even look at where this is. That's right. Get him out. The audience started to discuss. Some people didn't understand. Some people thought that Lin Feng was here to show off, so they said that, and some people were emotional and said they wanted to get Lin Feng out. Zuzuo also looked at Lin Feng. He frowned slightly and thought that Lin Feng wanted to show off, so he stood up and rashly affirmed something that even Professor Fang himself was not sure of. Zuzuo thought about it. Since the other party wanted to show off, he might as well satisfy the other party. Zuzuo asked that classmate, "Why are you sure of Professor Fang's words?" Professor Fang himself is not sure of this matter. As soon as this was said, everyone's eyes fell on Lin Feng again. Tang Yiming only reacted at this time. When Lin Feng stood up just now, it was too sudden, so sudden that he was stunned. At this moment, he came back to his senses and thought to himself that it was bad. This kid was bragging, and even he believed it. Thinking of this, Tang Yiming hurriedly and secretly pulled Lin Feng's clothes, motioning him to sit down quickly. This is not a joke. If you are not careful, you will get a bad reputation. But Lin Feng didn't care about Tang Yiming's pulling at all. He didn't want to speak at first, but seeing that the shock value was rising too fast, he decided to add fuel to the fire and push this matter. He looked at Zuzuo and said, "First, let me answer your second question. You asked where the flower fruit mountain is, right?" Lin Feng paused and said, "After Sun Wukong went out to sea to seek immortality, he went to the Dragon Palace in the East China Sea to seek suitable weapons. And the Dragon Palace in the East China Sea is obviously the East China Sea. Therefore, it can be concluded that the Flower Fruit Mountain is an island in the East China Sea. However, the Flower Fruit Mountain may have sunk to the bottom of the sea long ago, so there is no record of this place in history." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. If you think about it carefully, it makes sense. Zuzuo pondered, and also felt that it made sense. Fang Minimum smiled when he heard this answer. He asked, "Then how can you be sure that what I said is correct?" When this was said, everyone became curious. Even Tang Yiming was stunned for a moment and did not pull Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng smiled. "An era that has appeared, no matter how long it has passed, it will leave relevant records. However, the era that Sun Wukong lives in does not have such records. This is impossible. However, if this is a magical era, do you still think it is impossible?" As soon as these words came out, everyone's collective mind was shocked, as if they had been enlightened. This is true. If it is a magical era, then it is very easy to erase all traces. Zuzuo was also surprised. Fang Minimum was the same. He looked at Lin Feng with a smile in his eyes, because Lin Feng solved his two problems and helped him warm up the scene. Fang Minimum smiled and asked, "Classmate, what else do you know? Can you tell me?" Everyone was surprised when they heard this. WTF? Professor Fang asked this question. He was asking the other party a question. Lin Feng smiled and said, "I think we can classify the era that Sun Wukong lives in as the ancient times. And since it is an era, it is impossible that there is only one strong man like Sun Wukong." Hiss. Fang Minimum realized something, took a breath, and hurriedly asked, "You mean, there are many characters like Sun Wukong?" "Yes." Lin Feng nodded. Fang Minimum was shocked, but after thinking about it, he could understand. After all, it is impossible for such an era to breed only Sun Wukong, a strong man. The audience was also shocked when they heard this, and they couldn't believe their ears. Lin Feng said again, that ancient era should have undergone a major change, causing it to no longer exist. However, a character as strong as Sun Wukong, with a long lifespan, should have fallen into a dormant state. That's why they didn't appear in Chinese history. And the reason why Sun Wukong woke up now, I think, should also be related to the recent extraordinary events. Maybe in the future, one ancient character after another will wake up. Lin Feng made up a lie to pave the way for the mythological characters that will appear later. But the audience at the scene and the audience in the live broadcast room didn't know this. So they were shocked when they heard this. Chapter 20. The principal invites Lin Feng to be a visiting professor. Were there so many powerful people in that era? There should be. After all, it is impossible to give birth to only one Sun Wukong. That makes sense. But what happened in that era? Why did it cause the era to disappear? I don't know. But I really want to know the scene of that era. It must be very shocking. Everyone's words triggered deep thinking and discussion. However, while thinking deeply, some people became curious about Lin Feng. Who is this person? Why does he know so many things? It seems that he knows more than Professor Fang Minimum. Zuzuo was also thinking about Lin Feng's words. Professor Fang Minimum stood on the podium and looked at Lin Feng with a smile on his face. He felt that this young man seemed to know more than himself, and he should have learned it from other channels. Not only Professor Fang Minimum had such an idea, but also Principal Zhao Sangayang in the background. He also looked at Lin Feng, excited, and even had an idea. The lecture ended with excited and warm applause. Everyone learned about the origin of Sun Wukong and knew that there was such a magical era in ancient China. But the only regret is that I don't know much about that era and Sun Wukong, so it's not very satisfying. The full video of this lecture has become a hot search on the internet. Netizens are talking about it. Fuck, there is actually such an era in Chinese history. Awesome. Hahaha, I knew that our history is extraordinary. Oh my god. Who is this person? Why does he know so much? Didn't Professor Fang minimum say that it was a blank period in Chinese history? Yeah. It's incredible. What are you thinking? Do you think he is also from that era? Hahaha, how is that possible? So, we also have our own superheroes? Then who is more powerful, Sun Wukong or Iron Man? Isn't the person above talking nonsense? How can Iron Man be compared to Sun Wukong? That's right. Don't you use your brain when you speak. Fuck. What a pity. It's such a pity. If that era hadn't disappeared, wouldn't it mean that we could also practice Taoism and become a figure like Sun Wukong? You just discovered this problem? I'm so jealous. Discussions were raging online. Wukong University. Lin Feng and Tang Yiming followed the crowd out of the auditorium. Many media reporters wanted to stop Lin Feng for an interview, but there were too many people and Lin Feng and Tang Yiming were in the crowd, so they were not discovered by them, and therefore they were not interviewed. Lin Feng and Tang Yiming were walking on the road, and many people around them pointed at Lin Feng and then whispered to their companions with surprise on their faces. Tang Yiming saw the situation around him and suddenly envied Lin Feng for being so popular. He lowered his voice and asked in a low voice, "Brother Feng, tell me the truth. Did you make up what you said in the lecture on the spot?" "No," Lin Feng said. Tang Yiming heard this and pondered. He also knew that Lin Feng could not have made it up because Professor Fang minimum approved it. But he found it hard to believe this in his heart. He knew Lin Feng's level. How could he know this? Could it be that he secretly took extra classes? But this extra class is too intense, right? Tang Yiming couldn't figure it out. At this moment, a shout came from behind. "Classmate, wait a minute." Hearing this, Lin Feng and Tang Yiming turned around and saw the president of Wukong University, Zhao Sangyang, and Professor Fang minimum trotting over. The two of them were stunned at the same time, not knowing what was going on. Zhao Sangyang and Fang minimum trotted to Lin Feng, both with excited smiles on their faces, as if they had discovered some treasure. Tang Yiming was a little reserved and nervous in front of the two, but Lin Feng seemed calm and composed. He asked, "What do you two need?" Zhao Sangyang was even more interested in Lin Feng's question, because most people would be nervous and at a loss when they saw them, just like the fat classmate next to him, who avoided his eyes and wanted to look at him, but didn't dare to look directly at him. Unlike this classmate, he was calm and composed, as calm as water, and asked himself questions. This is the reaction of someone with real knowledge. Zhao Sangyang thought, and asked, "Classmate, what is your name? Are you a student of Wukong University?" "Lin Feng, I'm not from your school, and I've graduated, and I'm not studying anymore," Lin Feng said truthfully. "Oh." Zhao Sangyang nodded, and then said, "Then I wonder if you are free. Let's find a place to chat. How about sitting down and chatting?" "Chat?" Lin Feng was startled, not knowing what he meant. But after thinking about it, he nodded. Okay. He wanted to know what the other party wanted to talk to him about. "Okay, please come this way. We'd better avoid those reporters." Zhao Sangyang smiled. He knew that if the reporters saw him, they would swarm around him, and he wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Feng nodded, then said to Tang Yiming, "Fatty, you go back first. I'll go sit with them." Tang Yiming nodded in a reserved manner. At the same time, he envied Lin Feng even more. What an honor it was to be invited to chat by the president of Wukong University and Professor Fang minimum, a master of the history department. The president's office. "Come, Professor Lin, have some tea." Zhao Sangyang made a cup of tea and placed it in front of Lin Feng. When Lin Feng heard the title, he asked in surprise, "Professor Lin?" "Haha." Zhao Sangyang smiled, sat down, and said, "Professor Lin knows more about Sun Wukong than we do, and he has also deduced the situation of that era. So, it is appropriate to call you a professor. Besides, the academic world never looks at age." Hearing this, Lin Feng no longer cared about the title. Zhao Sangyang asked again, how did Professor Lin usually get in touch with historical knowledge? Or did you learn this in college? I learned this in college, and I have been studying this knowledge since graduation. You can say that I'm a folk history enthusiast. Lin Feng said truthfully. I see. Zhao Sangyang smiled. Lin Feng felt that Zhao Sangyang was talking about some meaningless questions, so he got straight to the point and said, I wonder what you want to talk to me about, President? Zhao Sangyang and Fang Minimum met each other, and then both laughed. Zhao Sangyang extended a sincere invitation to Lin Feng. What Professor Lin said in the lecture is enough to show that he knows more about the era of Sun Wukong than we do. Therefore, we would like to invite you to be a visiting professor at King University and continue to study about that era and Sun Wukong. Lin Feng frowned when he heard this. He didn't expect that the other party would come to him to talk about this kind of thing. But this is not good. I don't have a master's degree or a doctorate. Besides, this is King University. Chapter 21. Lin Feng decided to use the Tathagata role-playing card. Zhao Sangyang and Fang Minimum heard this and immediately knew what Lin Feng meant, so they hurriedly persuaded him. Professor Lin, you are being modest. Yes. Fang Minimum said, there is no way to verify the history of that blank period now, but you can speculate those things, which shows your strengths. Fang Minimum paused and said, besides, I believe you should also know how important that blank period of history is to our modern society. Shouldn't such a magical era be shown to the world? Shouldn't foreigners be allowed to see how profound the foundation of our Chinese history is? Zhao Sangyang also said, that's right. And academic qualifications are only a criterion for judgment. If you have such knowledge and bury it, it will be a loss for all mankind. Zhao Sangyang's words were very sincere. He really didn't want to let go of such a young man with real talent and knowledge who had an unexpected understanding of ancient civilization. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Sangyang and Fang Minimum, who were almost pleading. He knew what the two were thinking. As for myths and legends, he knew them clearly. But for them, it was a mysterious and magical era that they had never touched before. It was not surprising that they would react like this. Lin Feng pondered. Zhao Sangyang and Fang Minimum were delighted to see that Lin Feng was considering it, and they stopped talking and asked Lin Feng to think about it. It's not a bad thing to agree to them, and this may be an opportunity to promote myths and legends. Lin Feng thought. What he wanted to do now was to make myths and legends reappear. In this way, when he plays a mythological figure again, everyone will know who it is, so that it can better cause shock value. And on the surface, he is a professor, but secretly pretends to be a hero. This seems to be good, but it requires a more secretive space. Lin Feng thought about it, and finally decided to agree. He looked at Zhao Sangyang and smiled. Okay, principal, then I will agree. Okay, Professor Lin, this is really great. Zhao Sangyang and Fang Minimum said excitedly. Lin Feng said again, but I need an absolutely quiet environment. That's no problem. Everything is easy to say, I will arrange it for you right away. Zhao Sangyang agreed immediately. An absolutely quiet environment is nothing for the president of King University. Then thank you, President. Lin Feng smiled. I don't deserve it. We should thank you. Zhao Sangyang waved his hand and smiled. You can join King University. With your joining, the history of China hidden in the shadows will eventually see the light of day. Yes, Professor Lin. Fang Minimum also echoed. They were very excited and had tears in their eyes. This is not an exaggeration for the two of them. The fault in Chinese history is a major and difficult problem they have been pursuing all their lives. At their age, they no longer need to be able to investigate the historical truth of that blank period. Even if they only uncovered a corner, he would be very satisfied. A few hours later, Lin Feng followed Zhao Sangyang to a garden in the mountains. This garden has a residence, a rockery, and a small bridge and flowing water. The style is more like the ancient gardens of Suzhou, and it also incorporates a little modern element. In short, it is very elegant. Professor Lin, how is this garden? Zhao Sangyang asked Lin Feng. This garden is in the mountains. No one will come here, and there are security guards on the road at the foot of the mountain. Outsiders are prohibited from going up the mountain. It is absolutely quiet and no one will disturb you. Not bad. Lin Feng said. Zhao Sangyang smiled. This garden was built by a friend of mine at a high price. I told him about your situation, and he directly asked me to bring you here to live. I see. Lin Feng looked at the 2-story house in front of him, and was very satisfied. It was much more comfortable than the house he had lived in before. Zhao Sangyang smiled and said, then I won't disturb Professor Lin. I still have things to do at school. Let's go now. Don't you want to go in and sit for a while? No, I'll come and sit next time I'm free. Zhao Sangyang said, if Professor Lin needs anything, just call me, and I'll arrange for someone to send it over. Okay. Yes. Zhao Sangyang left. Lin Feng came to the house, and the style of the house was also ancient, grand and steady. Lin Feng walked from the first floor to the second floor, then opened a window on the second floor and looked outside. Outside, there were small bridges, flowing water, bamboo forests, and rockery. Looking into the distance, there were green mountains and trees, not to mention how beautiful it was. Lin Feng smiled. Suddenly, he remembered something and said, system, open the personal panel and the increase in shock value. Okay, master. After the words fell, a virtual panel appeared in front of him. Name, Lin Feng. Role card, Sun Wukong. Secondary role-playing authority, Tathagata Buddha. First level role-playing authority. Playing points, Sun Wukong 78 points. Note, playing points cannot be used universally. The playing points of a character can only be used for that character. Shock value. 73,908 points. Note, shock value can be used to purchase goods in the store, including but not limited to mythological character role cards. Ding. Shock value increased by 1. Ding. Shock value increased by 1. Hiss. So many shock values were added? Lin Feng was a little surprised. Before, the shock value was more than 20,000, and now it has reached more than 70,000, a full 50,000 shock value. Just a few words at the lecture, promoting the beginning of the myth, actually added so much shock value. It seems that my idea is correct. The more popular the myth, the more shock value will be added. Lin Feng smiled. According to the current situation, the role card of Tathagata Buddha can be used. Lin Feng said excitedly. Before, everyone didn't know where Sun Wukong came from, so when he appeared as Tathagata Buddha, everyone still didn't know where he came from. But now it's different. When he appears as Tathagata Buddha, everyone will believe what he said at the lecture more, and know that Tathagata Buddha also came from the era of Sun Wukong. The residual power caused by what Lin Feng said at the lecture was not only spread in China. At that time, there were also many foreign media on the scene, so this matter had spread all over the world at this time. All countries heard what the young man said and were shocked. In ancient times, there was an island called Huaguoshan in the East China Sea. A fairy stone on it gave birth to a stone monkey. The stone monkey went out to sea to seek the truth and learn the art of immortality. If there were no video and so many witnesses, no one would believe it. But now, they can no longer help but believe it. For example, Tony Stark in the United States. Tony watched the video and frowned tightly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. The bald monk appeared out of nowhere. Is the history of the blank period of China really like this? Could it be that there was a strong level of technology in that period that could transform human genes into that? Tony naturally first entered the aspect of technology. Sun Wukong was transformed by the technology of that era, so he had such power. How could he know about Taoism, immortality, and immortality? It seems necessary to study it. Tony decided secretly. Such powerful technology must be studied. It doesn't matter how much money it costs. But at this time, the voice of the artificial intelligence butler, Jarvis, sounded. Sir, Mr. Fury is visiting. What is he doing here? Tony was stunned when he heard it, and then he said, if you don't see me, just say I'm not at home, and I'm away from home. I don't know when I will be back. Tony knew that this person came and must have something to find him. "Sorry, sir, he's already in." Jarvis' voice sounded. Tony heard it and turned his head to see a tall, bald man with a black eye patch on his left eye and wearing a black windbreaker walked in. He was Nick Fury, nickname, director of the Stewed Egg. "When are you going on a long trip?" Nick asked knowingly. Tony did not answer the question, but said, "Do you know that it is illegal to enter someone's home without permission?" "Oh, then you can sue me," Nick said very bluntly. Tony smiled and turned around to do his own thing. "He is developing the next generation of Mark armor." Nick looked at the virtual projection technology in front of Tony, which showed the information of Mark parts piece by piece, and then looked at Tony's ease in operation, with only one left right eye showing admiration. He opened his mouth to get down to business. "Tony, the world is undergoing changes that we can't imagine. We need your strength. Do you want to join us?" Tony said without thinking. "No, I don't like to work in a department. There are too many rules and regulations. Besides, you can't afford me." Tony didn't even turn his head. Nick heard this, and after a pause, he said, "There is a superhero Sun Wukong in China. If you join us, you may be able to meet Sun Wukong. Aren't you interested in him?" As soon as these words came out, Tony paused and even stopped drawing the blueprint. He thought for a while, turned his head, looked at Nick, and said, "I'll think about it." China. Ministry of State Security. Chen Haitian sat in the office and looked at the confessions of Thor and others with a look of doubt on his face. He originally planned to interrogate Thor and others and then go to Hong Kong to prepare to deal with the terrorist organization that smuggled in from the United States. But now the result of the interrogation was beyond his expectations. The subordinate stood in front of the desk, looking at the director's frowning face, hesitated, and said, "Director, do you think what is said in this confession is true or false?" The subordinate couldn't figure it out. After interrogating the foreigners brought back before, they got inexplicable confessions. Especially the foreigner named Thor. He actually said that he was Odin's son. Who is Odin? Isn't that the king of gods in Norse mythology? So this is bullshit? But the confessions of the other 4 people are similar to Thor's. This is a bit outrageous. And they were separated before, so there is no possibility of collusion. Also, what about those steel giants? They are obviously not the product of Earth technology. Is what they said true? But how is this possible? Chen Haitian heard the question of his subordinates and did not answer. He was also confused. But reason told him that this was impossible. Knock knock. But at this moment, there was a knock on the door outside. Chen Haitian looked up at the door and said, "Come in." The words fell. The door was pushed open, and a subordinate hurried in with a mobile phone in his hand, and said anxiously, "Director, take a look at this video." Chen Haitian was a little confused, and didn't know what the video was. He took the phone and watched it. But immediately his eyes widened, and he was immersed in it. Our research found that Sun Wukong is actually an ancient Chinese man in a certain era. First of all, Sun Wukong is very powerful, which everyone can see from the video. Secondly, although our Chinese history is very long and there is a lot of history, there is a big historical fault. I believe everyone knows this. What if Sun Wukong is a person in this blank period? I think we can classify the era in which Sun Wukong lived as the ancient times. And since it is an era, it is impossible that there is only one strong man like Sun Wukong. That ancient era must have undergone a major change, resulting in its non-existence. However, a figure as strong as Sun Wukong, with a long lifespan, should have fallen into a dormant state. That is why they have not appeared in Chinese history. And the reason why Sun Wukong woke up now, I think, should be related to the recent extraordinary events. Maybe later, one ancient figure after another will wake up. Hiss. After watching the video, Chen Haitian took a breath, with shock on his face. When was this video produced? He quickly looked at his subordinate and asked. He knew that this video was about Sun Wukong, but why had he never seen it before? He had clearly investigated the information about Sun Wukong before. Director, this is the lecture given by Professor Fang Minimum of the History Department of Huaking University when you were interrogating those foreigners just now. He discovered the origin of Sun Wukong. The subordinate said excitedly. Chen Haitian finally understood. Immediately, he thought of something and asked again, who is this person in the audience? How does he know so many things? He was referring to Lin Feng. We are investigating his information. Chen Haitian nodded. He looked at Lin Feng in the video again. Let's not consider this person's identity for the time being. Just based on what he said. Doesn't this mean that what those foreigners said is also true? Chen Haitian thought of this. Since there were Taoism, immortal arts, and immortality arts in ancient China, then the existence of Odin and Asgard doesn't seem strange. Chen Haitian said so, but he was still shocked. The already broken cognition was broken again. Ding ling ling. Ding ling ling. But at this moment, a rapid ring rang out, as if something big had happened. Chen Haitian picked up the microphone and said, "I'm Chen Haitian. Director." A bald monk suddenly appeared in the department. A panicked voice came from the microphone. Suddenly appeared? Chen Haitian was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" "It means literally, suddenly appeared out of thin air." Hiss. Chen Haitian took a breath. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Come and have a look. This monk is so strange." "Okay. I'll be there right away." Chen Haitian responded. Although he was surprised, with the example of Sun Wukong in front of him, his ability to accept it was much stronger. Chapter 23, Buddha lifts the ban on Thor. Several guards stared at the bald monk in front of them with vigilance and nervousness. This monk just appeared out of thin air. Moreover, he sat cross-legged, and there was actually a lotus platform under him. In addition, after he appeared, lotus flowers grew all around him. You know, this is reinforced concrete ground. This situation has never been seen or heard of before. Therefore, several people thought of Sun Wukong at the same time. Only such a mysterious person can do this, right? Thinking of this, none of them acted rashly, and this monk, with a kind face, did not make any other moves. He was Lin Feng. Lin Feng played the role of Tathagata Buddha and teleported here directly from home. And the purpose of his coming here is that it is easier to show his holiness with Thor here. Otherwise, where can he show his holiness? At this moment, Lin Feng's mind was clear. Since he played the role of Tathagata Buddha, he felt that he had reached a state of selflessness and emptiness, and the whole person was in a comfortable state. At the same time, there was a very powerful feeling that he knew everything. It's worthy of being the role-playing card of Tathagata Buddha. It's the same first-level role-playing authority, but it's much more powerful than Sun Wukong's. It's not at the same level at all, Lin Feng said secretly. At the same time, the monks in the temples across the country felt a grand breath. This breath made them yearn and excited, but they couldn't tell what was going on. What's going on? I don't know. It seems that something has appeared in that direction, but why does it make us yearn? You have the same feeling? The monks talked about it. They were very puzzled about this matter. Although there was a gap in the history of China in this world, resulting in no mythological stories. But temples and Taoist temples still exist. It's just that they don't worship Tathagata Buddha, Sand King, and Jade Emperor. Instead, they worship other unknown things. However, they are all dead things. To put it bluntly, it can also be understood as blind chicken worship. Suddenly, with a bang, the unknown things they worshipped cracked and shattered all over the ground. Seeing this scene, the monks were shocked. The statue is broken. How could this happen? How could it break for no reason? It shouldn't be like this. This statue hasn't had this happen for so many years. There were more discussions, all of which were filled with surprise and confusion. Ministry of State Security. Chen Haitian hurried over and was stunned by the scene in front of him. A bald monk was sitting cross-legged on a lotus platform. Lotuses grew on the ground around him, and there was a faint golden glow floating above the lotus. This scene was extremely magical. Chen Haitian came back to his senses. He didn't know what was going on. Facing the monk in front of him, he actually felt like kneeling down. He shook his head and forced himself not to think about it, otherwise he would really kneel down. And as the director of the Ministry of State Security, if he really knelt down, it would be bad if it got out. He said, "Excuse me, who are you?" Although he didn't kneel down, he couldn't help but use honorifics. Amitabha. Lin Feng chanted a Buddhist name and said, "I'm the Buddha of Lingshan, and my Dharma name is Tathagata Buddha." Tathagata Buddha? Chen Haitian frowned when he heard this, and couldn't help but think of Sun Wukong. But suddenly, his mind was shocked, and he thought to himself, could it be that he is also from the same era as Sun Wukong? And now he has awakened? Chen Haitian took a breath. Judging from the current situation, this is very possible. It seems that what that person said is true. In that era, there were many people like Sun Wukong. Chen Haitian was shocked. He had doubts about this statement before, but now he completely believes it. But, who is that person? Why does he know these things? Chen Haitian became curious again. At this time, the Tathagata Buddha in front of him spoke, the stars have moved, the sun and the moon have changed, and I didn't expect that after so long. The human race has taken another path, and no longer seeks immortals. However, perhaps it is related to the changes in the world and our slumber. Chen Haitian's heart trembled when he heard this. He seemed to understand the meaning of this, but he was not sure. He hesitated and asked respectfully, excuse me, what do you mean by this? I can't say it now, you will know in the future. Lin Feng smiled kindly. The voice was gentle, revealing a sense of tranquility and peace. Hearing this, Chen Haitian was curious and puzzled, but he didn't want to ask. In fact, he felt a sense of peace in his heart, and this was the calmness he had never had since he was born. It seemed that at this moment, even if Mount Tay collapsed in front of him, he could remain calm. At this moment, Lin Feng looked up at the building and said, there are several different auras there. Chen Haitian was curious when he heard this and didn't know what it meant. But the next second, the Tathagata Buddha in front of him changed his gestures, and suddenly, Thor and the other 5 appeared in the air in front of him. And they were motionless, as if they were imprisoned. Hiss. Chen Haitian took a breath and his eyes widened. He didn't expect that the other party would get Thor and the other 5 out. Moreover, this method is exactly the same as that of Sun Wukong. No matter how many times you see it, you will be shocked. But the most shocked ones are Thor and the others, because they are the parties involved. They were locked up separately at the time. But suddenly, they felt a strange force covering their whole bodies. Then, they appeared here in a flash, and their bodies were imprisoned, suspended in the air, unable to move. What's going on? Is the king here? The 5 of them were shocked. However, when they saw Lin Feng, they immediately knew that it was Lin Feng who did it. Because among the people present, only Lin Feng was the most magical and special. Thor's temper had long been angry when he encountered such treatment. But when facing Lin Feng, he didn't feel that way. On the contrary, he felt it was an honor. This reaction was strange even to him. Lin Feng looked at Thor and the other 5, who were easily imprisoned in midair by him, and a smile appeared on his face. He said, the auras of the 5 of you are a little special, but fortunately, they are not the auras of demons and evil ways, but holy power. Hearing this, Thor and the others didn't know what was going on, and they felt relieved. Lin Feng looked at Thor again and said, however, there is actually a restriction on your body. Although this restriction will not take your life, it has imprisoned your power. Well, meeting you means that you are destined to be with Buddha, so I will untie this restriction for you and establish a fate. One day, maybe we will meet again. After that, Lin Feng raised his hand to Thor and gently tapped the air. But with this slight tap, everyone heard a buzzing sound. Then, a golden light was seen coming out of Thor's body. The strange thing was that, although the light was very bright, it was not dazzling at all. On the contrary, a gentle breath was emitted, which everyone could feel. The injuries of Sif and the other 4 were also recovered a lot at this moment. And the one who felt it the most was Thor. Thor felt comfortable all over his body, and the injuries he had suffered before were completely healed. Chapter 24. Odin was shocked. Who on earth released my son from his bondage? Exclamation mark. Everyone present was shocked by this scene, and it took them a long time to come back to their senses. The light disappeared. Thor felt that the imprisoned divine power reappeared, just like a blocked river, which was unblocked and unblocked again, and the divine power flowed through his limbs. Thor was extremely shocked, and couldn't believe this. He knew very well that the divine power in his body was imprisoned by his father Odin. This imprisonment came from blood, from the imprisonment of the king of Asgard on his subjects. But the other party actually broke this imprisonment so lightly. How is this possible? If it weren't for the thorough understanding of the origin of Asgard's divine power, it would be impossible to do this. But the other party is not an Asgardian at all. How could he know anything about divine power? Thor couldn't believe it at all. But this kind of thing just happened. Who is this person? Why does he have such great power? Is he in the same group as that Sun Wukong? Thor looked at the strange man in front of him, feeling complicated and confused. The complexity is that my father imprisoned my divine power, and I was released by others without my father's permission. The confusion is that I don't know the other party's identity, and why is he so powerful? This is beyond imagination. Thor pondered for a moment, and said to himself, this person is more powerful than that Sun Wukong. At that time, Lin Feng eliminated 18 destroyers, and communicated with Chen Haitian, and Thor heard Lin Feng's name. At this moment, Thor thought so, completely relying on his feeling. After the imprisonment was lifted, Lin Feng raised his hand and waved, and Thor and the other 5 disappeared out of thin air. When they appeared, they had returned to their respective temporary detention rooms. Thor and the other 5 were even more shocked. This application of space magic is simply terrifying. No need to recite spells, just raise your hand and come, wave it and go. Who is he? How can there be so many powerful people on Earth, a second-rate planet? Thor was puzzled. And the key is that Heimdall has never mentioned this situation. This means that he has not discovered this matter. Thor doesn't know about the things on the internet, so he doesn't know what the situation is. At the same time, Asgard, Odin sat on the throne with a gloomy expression. There was no light around, and it seemed very dim. And this dimness, falling on him, seemed very old, with a feeling of being an old hero. Odin held the scepter and said nothing. He has been in this posture for a long time. The eldest son is immature, impetuous, and arrogant. He almost died in Jotunheim at the hands of the frost giants, and almost caused a war between Jotunheim and Asgard. The second son is cunning, and will do anything for the throne. He even wants to kill his brother Thor, and wants to start a war against Jotunheim and completely exterminate the frost giants. And now he is still worried about being punished. So he jumped into the space crack and disappeared for a while. Even Heimdall couldn't find him and didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Both sons were not worrying, making Odin seem to have aged a lot in a short time. Odin sighed tiredly and held the scepter. But at this moment, he felt something in his heart and his face suddenly changed. He stood up and looked at the starry sky. He felt a powerful force coming. This force even frightened him. What's going on with this power? Have the creatures in the dark dimension appeared again? Odin was alert. But after feeling it, he found that it was not. This power was not evil and violent, but neutral and peaceful. And it disappeared in less than 30 seconds. Odin looked confused and puzzled. But at this time, he suddenly realized that Thor's shackles were unlocked. What's going on? Could it be related to the mysterious power just now? Odin guessed. It's not surprising that he could think of this. Because after that power appeared, he realized that the shackles on his son were lifted. As soon as he thought of this, he called out, Heimdall, what happened to the earth? Heimdall guards the Rainbow Bridge. His eyes can see anywhere in the 9 realms. But in the past, he could get an immediate response when he called Heimdall, but this time he didn't hear an answer for a long time. Odin frowned. Heimdall. This time, Heimdall replied, but the reply was full of trembling. King, I can no longer see the earth. It has disappeared from my sight. Hearing this, Odin's face rose. What did you say? You can't see the earth? Odin couldn't believe this. How could this be possible? But suddenly, he thought of that mysterious and powerful force. Could it be that the other party covered the earth so that Heimdall couldn't see it? Odin said in surprise. Thinking about it carefully, it is very possible. The other party helped Thor to unlock the imprisonment on Earth, and then brought the power to Asgard. It is easy for such a powerful person to cover the Earth, so that Heimdall can't see it. Moreover, only such a person can do this. Thinking of this, Odin was uneasy and hurriedly ordered, Heimdall, stop spying on the Earth. Since the strong man did this, it means that he doesn't want people to spy on the Earth at will. If you force a spy, it is likely to make the other party unhappy. Go to Earth, if you have a chance, and bring Thor back. Odin gave the order. Yes. Heimdall replied. And Odin pondered again. He was wondering, who on earth was the other party? The mysterious and powerful force that Odin felt was a complete mistake. It was just that Lin Feng had untied the shackles on Thor, causing the power to surge. However, this did increase Lin Feng's shock value. Because Odin is not an ordinary person after all, the shock he caused is much more than the shock value obtained by shocking ordinary people. Chen Haitian was surprised at Lin Feng's casual control of Thor and the other 5. This power is really amazing. However, he just said that Thor and the others have different auras, which means that they are really not human beings from Earth. At this time, Chen Haitian had completely believed what Thor said about his origin. In addition, the situation that person said at the lecture after Lin Feng finished this, he saw that the shock value was rising, and he was excited. Then, he looked at Chen Haitian and said, I came here just to see the world. Now that I have seen the world, I should go back. However, in the near future, the Earth will face alien invasions, but you should not panic. This is the land of China, the place where the human race originated. And the human race is destined by heaven, and there are ways to resolve it. However, I'm a monk, with compassion in mind, and I will not ignore it. I will give you a gift. If you encounter danger in the future, you can show it to protect the peace of the world. After that, Lin Feng raised his hand and gently pointed at Chen Haitian. A golden light flew out, and turned into a sutra in front of Chen Haitian. Chen Haitian hurriedly caught it, and then looked up. I saw that there was no figure of Tathagata Buddha. He had disappeared, as if he had never appeared. However, the lotus growing on the ground marked the scene that had just happened. Chapter 25 Loki controls the Mandarin. Hiss. Chen Haitian took a breath, his face full of surprise. Again, this mysterious power, no matter how many times you see it, you will be shocked and feel incredible. Chen Haitian came back to his senses and looked down at the scripture in his hand. It was an ancient scripture with a texture like paper, but a bit of satin texture with a character on it. It looked ordinary and nothing magical. However, Chen Haitian knew that, since this was a gift from the Tathagata Buddha, it must be extraordinary. So, he carefully put the scripture away, as if he was holding his newborn child, intending to keep it well. Chen Haitian looked at the place where the Tathagata Buddha appeared again. The lotus that grew on the ground was still there. And it was still fresh, with water drops hanging on it. Chen Haitian was thinking in his heart that he wanted to invite Sun Wukong to join the department at that time, preparing to build a department similar to the US Shield. But now that he knows where Sun Wukong came from, and has seen how powerful people like them are, he hesitated. Is such a powerful person qualified to invite? Would it be disrespectful to him? Chen Haitian frowned and was entangled. I don't know if I should mention this to Sun Wukong next time I meet him. But after struggling for a while, Chen Haitian didn't think about it anymore. Let's talk about it next time I meet Sun Wukong. There are still important things to do now. He ordered the people around him, don't move the lotus on the ground, leave them like this. In addition, what happened just now is classified as a top-level secret, and no one is allowed to disclose or discuss it. Also, get ready, we will go to Hong Kong immediately, there is a big operation there. Last time, the superior called and said that a group of terrorist organizations stole an important thing from the US Shield and were smuggling to Hong Kong. Now they are going to go there and arrest all of this terrorist organization. In addition, see what the stolen things are. Yes, the subordinate next to him responded. But suddenly, he remembered something, hesitated, and asked, then, what about Thor and the others? Chen Haitian heard this and pondered. Thor and his friends have been able to determine where they came from. There is no problem with the instructions. Let them stay here first, and wait until we come back from Xiangjiang. Of course, if they want to leave, don't stop them. Chen Haitian thought for a while and said, Thor and his friends did not break the law. At most, Thor washed the king's feet, which is nothing. Moreover, the other party is from Asgard. If they are kept locked up, I'm afraid that more trouble will arise. Xiangjiang. A huge luxury cruise ship is sailing on the sea. The port of Xiangjiang is in front. This cruise ship carries tourists from many countries, most of whom are from the United States. In a luxurious room, the curtains are all drawn, and the lights are on. A middle-aged man in a black robe sits upright on the bed with his eyes closed. At this moment, a man came over, bent down, put one hand on his chest and one hand on his back, and said respectfully, "Sir, we are about to arrive at the port of Xiangjiang." As soon as these words came out, the middle-aged man opened his eyes. There was a green light flashing in his eyes. It took a second or two to return to normal. He was the leader of the 10 Commandments gang, a man who possessed 10 magic rings and powerful magic and technology. His name had long been forgotten, and now he only had one name, Mandarin. How long will it take to reach the shore? About 15 minutes. Yes. Mandarin nodded. You go down first. Yes. After his men left, Mandarin looked at his right hand, and all 5 fingers were wearing rings. He clenched the air, and with the help of magic, a blue light flashed, and a blue cube appeared in his hand. He looked at the blue cube, and the blue light in the cube seemed to contain unimaginable power. Cosmic magic. Wait for me to study your power thoroughly. Mandarin smiled. He took great pains to steal this thing from SHIELD and smuggled it to Hong Kong, China, just to study the power of this cosmic cube in Hong Kong. Especially after seeing the story of Sun Wukong on the internet, he wanted to study the cosmic cube more thoroughly to gain powerful power. The Mandarin was very excited, as if he had seen the secrets of the cosmic cube that he had studied thoroughly. However, at this moment, a leisurely voice suddenly sounded behind him. The light of this thing is so beautiful. Hearing this, the Mandarin's hair stood on end. Without even thinking, he quickly turned his head and raised his hand to launch a magic attack. Bang! But the light of the Rubik's Cube penetrated the man's body and hit the TV, punching a big hole in the TV and directly scrapping it. Huh. The Mandarin looked puzzled. The man in front of him smiled mockingly, and his figure gradually disappeared like a projection. Where is the person? Why did he disappear? The Mandarin's eyes widened, and then he became alert. He knew that the other party suddenly appeared and disappeared, and he definitely did not leave, but was very likely to be around. The Mandarin looked solemn. But suddenly, he noticed something, turned around quickly, and punched. The front of the fist was covered with black light, which was obviously a magic attack. But Loki raised his hand to block, and then the scepter in his right hand directly touched the chest of the Mandarin, and it emitted a blue light. Suddenly, the Mandarin's body trembled, as if he had been electrocuted, and his body shook continuously. At the same time, his eyes turned black, as if they were dyed. After a few seconds, Loki took back the scepter. The Mandarin paused, and his eyes were dark. Then, he knelt on one knee to Loki and said respectfully, "Master." Ha ha ha. Seeing that the other party was controlled by the Mind Scepter and became his subordinate, Loki laughed. This Mind Scepter is really useful. With such a magical object, why should I worry about not being able to destroy Thor and Sun Wukong? Wait for this thing. I have to think of a way to take this Mind Scepter from Thanos. Loki thought to himself. However, now is not the time to think about this. There are still things to do. He said to the Mandarin, "Get up, mortal. I need you to do something. Take the cosmic cube and open the space tunnel. In order to open the space tunnel, you must have the power of the cosmic cube." And this is while Loki came to Mandarin. Yes. Mandarin said respectfully. He was now controlled by Loki with a Mind Scepter and would only obey Loki's orders and had forgotten the purpose of coming to Hong Kong. At the same time, in the United States, Nick left. Tony looked at the information left by Nick. He had projected it using virtual projection technology. This is a palm-sized cube with blue light. According to Nick, the energy contained in this cube can only be described as infinite. Moreover, this energy stone even contains the rules of space jump that humans have not even touched the threshold at this time. For Tony, this is a great attraction. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.